I discovered my wife cheated on me because she didn't spend any money or take any pictures during her friend's bachelorette week in Mexico. My name is Daniel Hart, and I am 32 years old. My wife Emily is 30. Our story isn't one you'd typically hear in a fairy tale or romantic comedy, but it's ours, filled with unexpected twists and profound moments of connection that brought us to where we are today. We met just over a year ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. It was one of those swanky gatherings where everyone dressed to impress, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and cologne. I was there reluctantly, dragged along by my best friend Mark, who insisted I needed to get out more. Emily, on the other hand, seemed to be in her element, laughing and chatting effortlessly with everyone she encountered. Our first meeting was anything but love at first sight. In fact, it was rather ordinary. We bumped into each other near the bar, quite literally, spilling a bit of her cocktail on my shirt. She apologized profusely, and I, trying to make light of the situation, joked that it was an improvement on my usual attire. She laughed, and that laugh, genuine and unguarded, was the first crack in my carefully constructed walls. As the night progressed, we found ourselves gravitating towards each other. We talked about everything from our favorite movies to our career ambitions. Emily was candid about her past, mentioning in passing her numerous relationships. She had a vibrant history of romance, filled with highs and lows, love and heartbreaks. It was clear she had lived a full life, unafraid to take risks and follow her heart. Emily had always been a force of nature, a whirlwind of energy and charisma that captivated everyone who crossed her path. Before we met, she had a reputation for being a playboy, though she never liked the term herself. Her friends would often tease her about her adventurous love life, a series of relationships that seemed to ebb and flow with the tides of her vibrant personality. She had dated about 20 people, each relationship adding another layer to her rich tapestry of life experiences. From the moment we met, Emily was open about her past. She spoke candidly about her numerous relationships, recounting stories with a mix of nostalgia and wisdom. There was James, her high school sweetheart, who taught her the innocence of first love but also the sting of first heartbreak. Then came Laura, her college romance, who introduced her to the complexities of love in adulthood, but ultimately drifted apart due to conflicting career ambitions. There were brief flings and intense affairs, each leaving an indelible mark on her. Like the time she dated Alex, a free-spirited artist who showed her the beauty of living in the moment, but whose commitment to his art meant he could never fully commit to her. Or the whirlwind romance with Sophie, a fellow traveler who she met on a backpacking trip through Europe, only for their paths to diverge as they returned to their separate lives. Emily's love life was not without its share of drama and heartbreak. She had been cheated on, ghosted, and even had a restraining order against an ex who couldn't accept the end of their relationship. Through it all, Emily remained resilient, learning from each experience and growing stronger with each passing relationship. When Emily and I first met, I was acutely aware of her past. Friends and acquaintances were quick to fill me in on her reputation, but rather than being deterred, I was intrigued. Here was a woman who had lived fully, who had embraced love in all its forms, and who had emerged with an open heart and a willingness to try again. It was her honesty, and her willingness to be vulnerable that drew me in. I knew from the beginning that loving Emily would mean accepting her past. She was unapologetic about her life choices, and I admired her for it. She had never settled for less than what she deserved, and she approached every relationship with the hope that it would be the one to last. Her past wasn't a series of failures, it was a testament to her belief in love and her refusal to give up on it. Our relationship quickly became serious, and it wasn't long before I introduced Emily to my family. From the start, they were skeptical. My mother, in particular, was vocal about her concerns. She had always imagined me with someone more conventional, someone with a less complicated history. To her, Emily's past was a red flag, a sign that she wasn't capable of a stable long-term relationship. My siblings, though less outspoken than my mother, shared her reservations. They would give me concerned looks and subtle warnings, suggesting that I reconsider my commitment to Emily. Family gatherings became tense. My mother would find subtle ways to bring up Emily's past, as if reminding me would make me see things her way. "Daniel, remember when you dated Samantha? She was such a sweet girl," she would say, her tone dripping with implication. My siblings would exchange glances, their eyes silently conveying their doubts. It was frustrating and hurtful, but I stood by Emily. I knew that her past didn't define her, it was her character, her kindness, and the love she showed me that mattered. Emily had a vibrant history, yes, but it was a testament to her resilience and her quest for true love. She had been through a lot, but she emerged stronger and wiser, with a heart full of love and a spirit that refused to be broken. The disapproval from my family weighed heavily on us. Emily felt it acutely, though she never let it show. She would smile and make polite conversation during family gatherings, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. She once confided in me that she felt like she was constantly being judged, not for who she was, but for who she had been. "It's like they can't see past my history," she said one evening, her voice tinged with sadness. "I feel like I'm being punished for my past mistakes." It was a painful realization, and it only strengthened my resolve to stand by her. I reassured her that she was more than her past, that she was the woman I loved and wanted to build a future with. But the strain was undeniable. Our decision not to have an official wedding was influenced in part by my family's disapproval. We didn't want our special day to be marred by tension and judgment. Instead, we focused on building our life together, proving to ourselves and to others that our love was real and lasting. We moved in together, creating a home filled with love and laughter. Our apartment was a sanctuary from the outside world, a place where we could be ourselves without fear of judgment. We decorated it with pictures of our adventures, mementos from trips we had taken, and items that reflected our shared interests. Every corner of our home was a testament to our love and the life we were building together. Emily was adamant about not wanting a traditional marriage. She was so liberal that the idea of conforming to societal norms, especially after facing so much judgment, was unappealing to her. "I don't need a piece of paper to prove my commitment to you," she would say. "Our love is enough." Her family also had a significant influence on her views. They had disowned her because of her stubbornness and her refusal to conform to their expectations. Emily's parents were conservative and strict, and her liberal views and unconventional lifestyle clashed with their values. They had hoped she would settle down with someone of their choosing, someone who fit their idea of a suitable partner. But Emily had always marched to the beat of her own drum, and their attempts to control her only pushed her further away. When Emily chose to be with me, her parents' disapproval turned into outright hostility. They cut ties with her, refusing to accept our relationship. It was a painful blow for Emily, but she stood firm in her decision. "I can't live my life for them," she told me. "I have to be true to myself, and that means being with you." Their rejection only brought us closer together. We leaned on each other for support, finding strength in our love and our shared determination to create a life that reflected our values. We decided to start a family, eager to fill our home with even more love and joy. She was pregnant, and it all started on that night at the bar when we decided to go to the hotel together. A few weeks after moving into our new home, we discovered the pregnancy. I was overjoyed at the thought of becoming a father, but Emily's reaction was different. She was unhappy because she wasn't ready to have children at that time. Her dreams and ambitions suddenly felt overshadowed by the unexpected responsibility of parenthood. Throughout her pregnancy, I dedicated myself to taking care of her. I attended every doctor's appointment, making sure she was comfortable and well fed. I cooked her favorite meals, researched the best prenatal vitamins, and read every book I could find on pregnancy and childbirth. I wanted to be the best partner I could be, to support her in every way possible. Emily appreciated my efforts, but there was always a lingering sadness in her eyes, a sense of loss for the freedom she cherished. The day she gave birth was both the most joyous and the most heartbreaking day of our lives. It was just me and her in the delivery room. Both our parents chose not to come. Emily felt the weight of their absence acutely. She seemed helpless and resentful, blaming herself for marrying me and feeling trapped in a life she hadn't envisioned for herself. As she held Noah for the first time, tears streamed down her face, a mix of joy and sorrow. We created new memories, built a life together, and welcomed our son, Noah, into the world. Emily was an incredible mother, and watching her with Noah only deepened my love for her. She was nurturing, patient, and full of joy, qualities that made her past seem irrelevant in the face of the beautiful life we were creating. However, the shadow of her past never completely disappeared. It was always there, lurking in the background, brought to the forefront by any small sign of trouble. My family's disapproval, though less vocal over time, was still palpable. They couldn't see past the stories they had heard, and it made them blind to the amazing person Emily had become. After giving birth, I began to sense our feelings for each other fading. Emily, having been through so many relationships, seemed to find it normal to grow bored. I was a safe and uninteresting choice, a stark contrast to the exciting and unpredictable past she had experienced. Gradually, she began to estrange herself from me, spending more time away from home, less engaged in our conversations, and increasingly distant. I loved her deeply, and I was willing to endure anything to keep our family together. I could even tolerate the thought of her being with someone else, as long as she didn't abandon me and our child. My weakness and desperation became apparent, and when I tried to express my feelings, it only made things worse. "Emily, please," I begged one night. "I know I'm not exciting, but I can't lose you. I'll do anything to make this work." Her response was cold and detached. "Daniel, you're suffocating me," she said, her voice devoid of the warmth it once held. "I need space. This isn't what I signed up for." Her words cut deep, and I felt my heart breaking a little more each day. The more I clung to her, the more fed up she became with me. She saw my love and devotion as a burden, something that weighed her down rather than lifted her up. The distance between us grew, and I watched helplessly as Emily drifted further away. She began spending more time with her friends, often coming home late and avoiding my questions about where she had been. The nights she spent away from home became more frequent, and I couldn't ignore the gnawing suspicion that she was seeing someone else. Yet, I was too weak to confront her, too afraid of pushing her away completely. As the weeks went by, Emily's absence became more pronounced. She would leave early in the morning and come home late at night, if at all. I took on the role of primary caregiver for Noah, trying to fill the void left by her absence. I read him bedtime stories, took him to the park, and did my best to create a stable and loving environment for him. Emily's presence in our lives became increasingly sporadic. She would show up occasionally, trying to put on a brave face for Noah's sake, but the disconnect was palpable. Our conversations were strained and awkward, filled with unspoken words and unresolved tension. In recent months, Emily sat me down for a heart-to-heart conversation. "Daniel," she began, her eyes earnest and unyielding, "there's something important you need to understand about me. I am a very liberal person. I value my freedom and independence, and I cannot tolerate being controlled. If you love me, you need to trust me completely." Her words were firm, but they were also a window into her soul. Emily had always been open about her past and her beliefs. She was unapologetically herself, a free spirit who thrived on independence and self-expression. This was one of the many reasons I fell in love with her. But hearing her articulate it so clearly, especially in the context of our new marriage, was both enlightening and daunting. I loved Emily deeply, and the thought of losing her was unbearable. Her independence and confidence were traits I admired, but they also made me acutely aware of my own vulnerabilities. I wanted to be the partner she needed, someone who could give her the space to be herself while still being her anchor. Yet, the balance between trust and insecurity was more challenging than I had anticipated. From the beginning, I found myself in situations that tested my resolve. Emily's charm and vivacity naturally drew people to her, and she had a way of captivating any room she entered. Men, in particular, seemed to be drawn to her magnetic personality. There were times when her interactions with other men made me uncomfortable. She was always friendly and engaging, and while I believed in her loyalty, I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy whenever she was too close or too familiar with someone else. There were instances at social gatherings where she would be surrounded by men, laughing and chatting animatedly. She would often introduce me to them, making sure I was part of the conversation, but it didn't ease the knot in my stomach. Her interactions were innocent, but my insecurities amplified every smile, every touch on the arm, and every moment of shared laughter. Despite my discomfort, I never confronted her about it. Emily had made it clear that she despised jealousy and possessiveness. She valued trust above all else in a relationship, and I feared that questioning her behavior would violate the very foundation of our marriage. I didn't want to risk pushing her away by appearing controlling or distrustful. So, I kept my feelings to myself, burying my insecurities and trying to focus on the trust she asked for. I wanted to be the supportive husband who believed in her completely. But in my quest to avoid conflict, I often found myself feeling weak and powerless. My love for Emily was strong, but it came with the price of suppressing my own needs and emotions. There were times when Emily's liberal approach to relationships extended beyond our social life. She was an active presence on social media, frequently posting pictures and updates that showcased her vibrant personality. Many of these posts included photos with male friends or colleagues, often taken at work events or casual get-togethers. While I understood that these interactions were part of her life, each post felt like a small jab at my insecurities. Emily would occasionally receive messages from men, some of whom were old friends and others who were more recent acquaintances. She was always open about these communications, often showing me the messages and her replies. She emphasized that she had nothing to hide and that transparency was key to maintaining our trust. I appreciated her honesty, but it did little to quell the unease I felt. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at work, I noticed a new message notification on Emily's phone. It was from a man named Greg, someone I hadn't heard of before. My heart raced as I debated whether to mention it or not. Emily, noticing my discomfort, asked what was wrong. Hesitantly, I pointed out the message. Emily glanced at the screen and sighed, rolling her eyes slightly. "That's just Greg from work," she said, her tone dismissive. "He's new in the office and had some questions about a project." Despite her explanation, a gnawing feeling of unease settled in my chest. I forced myself to ask her more about him, hoping she would understand my concern and reassure me. "Emily, who is Greg really?" I know you're open and free-spirited, but I just want to make sure there's nothing I should be worried about." Her expression hardened, and her eyes flashed with irritation. "Daniel, I've told you before about my personality. I'm a free spirit and I value my independence. Now you're getting jealous over a simple work message." Her voice rose and I could hear the anger building. "This is exactly what I can't stand. You insinuating things about me and questioning my loyalty. It's insulting." I felt a lump form in my throat. At that moment, I realized I might have overstepped, or perhaps, I had been manipulated into feeling guilty. The thought that my concerns, however reasonable they seemed to me, could be driving a wedge between us was unbearable. I didn't want to lose her over a misunderstanding. "I'm sorry, Emily," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to upset you. I've been feeling insecure lately. I trust you. I really do." She shook her head, clearly still upset, and turned away from me. I knew I had to back down and give her space, even though my heart ached with the fear of what these tensions might mean for our future. I went to the bedroom to put Noah to sleep, trying to push the gnawing doubts from my mind. As I rocked him gently, humming a lullaby, the pain in my heart deepened. I watched his tiny chest rise and fall with each breath, and I felt the weight of my responsibilities pressing down on me. I had to protect this fragile, beautiful life we had created, and I had to find a way to maintain the trust and harmony in our relationship. But the fear lingered, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. What if my jealousy was driving Emily away? What if I was the problem, unable to cope with her free-spirited nature? The question swirled in my mind, making it hard to focus on anything else. After Noah fell asleep, I stood by his crib, watching him for a while longer, seeking solace in his innocence. I wanted to believe that everything would be okay, that our love was strong enough to withstand these challenges. But the uncertainty was a heavy burden to bear. We were at an impasse, and it was clear that finding a balance would not be easy. As I lay in bed that night, Emily beside me, the distance between us felt like an insurmountable chasm. I knew we had a long way to go, but I was determined to fight for our relationship, to prove that my love for her was stronger than my fears. The next morning, I woke up feeling the weight of the previous night's conversation. Emily was already up, bustling around the kitchen with Noah. The usual warmth and laughter were replaced with a strained silence. I joined them, determined to make an effort to rebuild the trust and ease the tension. "Morning," I said, attempting a cheerful tone. "How did you sleep?" Emily glanced at me briefly, then turned her attention back to Noah, who was happily munching on his breakfast. "Fine," she replied curtly. "We have a busy day ahead." I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. It was going to take time to heal the rift, but I was willing to put in the effort. Throughout the day, I kept replaying our conversation in my mind, wondering if there was a way I could have handled it better. I wanted to believe that my concerns were valid, but Emily's reaction had left me second-guessing myself. Over the next few days, I made a conscious effort to give Emily the space she needed. I refrained from asking about her messages or questioning her interactions with others. Instead, I focused on strengthening our bond and building trust. We spent more quality time together as a family, going for walks, playing with Noah, and enjoying quiet evenings at home. Despite my efforts, the underlying tension remained. Emily was cordial, but the warmth and intimacy that once defined our relationship seemed to have diminished. I could sense her frustration, and it only heightened my own anxiety. I wanted to bridge the gap between us, but I was at a loss as to how to do it without coming across as overbearing or insecure. I found myself questioning everything. Was my family right all along? Had I been naive to believe that Emily's past didn't matter? The doubts gnawed at me, threatening to unravel the trust we had built. The real test of our relationship came with Emily's trip to Mexico. My wife, Emily, went to Mexico last week for her friend's bachelorette party. I was thrilled for her, knowing she needed a break from the daily grind. She had been looking forward to this trip for months, and I was happy to support her. I helped her pack, booked her flight, and made sure she had everything she needed. But as the week unfolded, a series of events began to stir an unsettling feeling within me. The trip started off as expected. Emily left on Monday morning, her excitement palpable. She kissed me and son goodbye, promising to send lots of photos and updates. By evening, true to her word, she was sending me photos and videos from the airport and the resort. The first picture was a selfie at the airport, her face glowing with anticipation. Another video showed her boarding the plane, capturing the thrill of the impending adventure. Later that evening, Emily sent me a video tour of her hotel room, a spacious suite with a breathtaking view of the ocean. She sounded so happy, her voice filled with joy as she described the amenities and the plans for the evening. The first day was filled with typical vacation activities: dinner at a nice restaurant, drinks at the bar, and a few souvenirs from the hotel shop. Her credit card showed a flurry of activity up until 9 p.m. that night. There were charges for dinner, drinks, a few items from the hotel shop and even a couple of souvenirs. Then, everything stopped. For the rest of the week, there were no charges on her card, not even small ones, until her layover in Dallas on her way back home. Emily explained that her friend, Sarah, had taken over and paid for everything after that first night. While plausible, this sudden shift felt odd. Emily was usually meticulous about sharing costs, and would have mentioned such a significant gesture from her friend. We had always split expenses fairly, even on vacations. Her not spending a single penny for the rest of the trip seemed strange, but I brushed aside my concerns, convincing myself that it was just a thoughtful act of generosity among friends. What troubled me more was Emily's silence on social media. Emily is an avid Instagram and TikTok user. She posts about everything, from getting a latte to picking up our kids from school. Her social media accounts are a vibrant tapestry of her daily life. The last thing she posted on TikTok was a fun trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport. It was a light-hearted clip that perfectly captured her excitement as she began her trip. But after that, her accounts went silent. I kept checking her profiles, expecting updates and stories about her Mexican adventure. But there was nothing. No photos of beaches, no videos of parties, no stories about the bachelorette festivities. The silence was deafening. I wanted to believe she was simply enjoying her time and decided to take a break from social media, but it felt out of character for her. The nagging feeling in my gut grew stronger. On Tuesday morning, I sent her a text, asking how things were going. Hours passed without a response. By evening, I finally got a reply, a brief message saying they were having a blast and she'd update me soon. There were no accompanying pictures or videos, which was unlike her. Emily loved to share her experiences, especially when she was having fun. This uncharacteristic silence left me feeling uneasy. Wednesday and Thursday passed in a similar fashion. I continued to text her, sometimes receiving short generic replies and other times, no response at all. My worry intensified, especially since her social media remained inactive. On Thursday night, I called her, hoping to hear her voice and ease my concerns. She answered after a few rings, sounding tired but cheerful. She told me they had been busy with activities and that she hadn't had much time to be on her phone. "Sarah's really gone all out for this trip," she said. "It's been non-stop fun." "That's great to hear," I replied, trying to sound upbeat. "I just miss seeing your posts and hearing from you." "I'm sorry, babe," she said. "I just needed a break from everything, including social media. I'll make it up to you when I get back, I promise." Her words reassured me somewhat, but the gnawing doubt remained. Friday came and went, with only a single text from Emily saying they were headed to a local market and then to a beach party. No pictures, no updates, just a terse message. On Saturday, the day Emily was supposed to fly back, I was filled with anticipation and a bit of anxiety. I checked her flight status online, tracking her journey back home. She had a layover in Dallas, and I noticed a small charge on her credit card from the airport. Finally, some activity after days of nothing. It was a relief to see something familiar, yet it still didn't explain the complete silence during the trip. When Emily returned home, I was eager to hear all about her trip and see the photos she had taken. But when I asked her, she brushed me off, saying she didn't feel like taking pictures that week. Her response was casual, almost dismissive, and it left me feeling uneasy. Emily loved capturing memories and sharing them, especially on such a significant trip. Her lack of enthusiasm and her evasiveness only added to my growing suspicions. Over the next few days, Emily was distant. She seemed preoccupied, lost in her thoughts. She would sit on the couch, scrolling through her phone, but her usual warmth and chatter were missing. I tried to engage her in conversation, but her responses were terse and detached. She even opted to sleep on the couch one night, claiming the air conditioning was better there. While this was true, it felt like another barrier between us. That night, I heard her talking quietly on the phone. It was the middle of the night, and her voice was hushed. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to check on her. As I made my way downstairs, I tripped over the dog, causing a commotion. By the time I reached the living room, Emily was lying on the couch, appearing to be asleep. I couldn't shake the feeling that she had been talking to someone and quickly pretended to be asleep when she heard me coming. The next morning, I couldn't hold back my feelings any longer. I needed to address my concerns, not to accuse her of anything, but to clear the air. I approached her cautiously, explaining how everything combined, the sudden lack of spending, the social media silence, her distance, and the late-night phone call, was making me uneasy. "I'm not accusing you of anything, Emily," I said, trying to keep my voice calm and measured. "I just need to get my feelings on the table. All these things are making me feel uneasy." Her reaction was immediate and intense. "You are a major fucking asshole for bringing this up on my first day back at work," she snapped. Her eyes blazed with anger, and her voice was sharp. "I wasn't trying to pry," I replied, feeling the weight of her words. "I just wanted to communicate with you." "Your communication is prying," she shot back. "And I am not discussing this with you ever again." With that, she took the kids to summer camp and left, leaving me standing there, feeling both guilty and justified in my concerns. As the day went on, I replayed our conversation in my mind, wondering if I had indeed overstepped, or if my concerns were valid. I didn't want to come across as controlling or jealous, but I couldn't ignore the signs that something was off. Emily's reaction only added to my confusion and anxiety. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat alone in the living room, trying to make sense of everything. I pulled up her credit card statement again, scrutinizing the transactions. The abrupt halt in spending after the first night still didn't sit right with me. I checked her social media profiles once more, hoping for any new updates, but they remained silent. Feeling restless, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through our neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. Emily had always been open about her friendships and activities. If she had nothing to hide, why was she so defensive? Why had she shut down the conversation so abruptly? Then a thought struck me. Emily's text probably synced to her iPad, which she had left at home. The idea seemed both intrusive and desperate, but my need for clarity outweighed my hesitation. I found the iPad on the kitchen counter, exactly where she had left it. Picking it up, I felt a surge of anxiety. Was I about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed? But the gnawing doubt in my heart pushed me forward. It took me a while to figure out the passcode. I tried a few combinations that I knew she often used, but none of them worked. My hands were sweating, my heart pounding as I attempted different sequences, all the while glancing over my shoulder as if she might walk in any moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the screen unlocked. I breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt a pang of guilt. This was a significant breach of trust, but I convinced myself it was necessary for my peace of mind. Navigating to the iMessage app, I scrolled through her messages. Most were mundane, filled with conversations with friends and family. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then, one message caught my eye. It was from a number with no contact info, dated the night she arrived at the resort. The message read, "Okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said Signal?" My heart skipped a beat. I looked up Signal and found out it was a messaging app similar to WhatsApp, known for its privacy features. The iPad didn't have Signal installed on it, which only added to the mystery. I stared at the message, my mind racing. Who was this person? Why were they meeting in the lobby? And why did they need to use a secure messaging app like Signal? The questions swirled in my mind, each one more troubling than the last. I felt a sinking sensation in my stomach. Was Emily hiding something from me? Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to dig deeper. I opened her email app and searched for any correspondence that might provide some context. Most of the emails were work-related or from subscription services, but there were a few exchanges with her friend Sarah about the trip. Nothing seemed out of place until I found an email from a different, unfamiliar address. The subject line was, "Looking forward to meeting you." My heart pounded as I opened it. The email was brief and vague, but it mentioned meeting up and coordinating plans using Signal. It was signed with just a single initial, G. My mind immediately went to Greg, the man whose message had first set off my suspicions. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. Was this the same person? I needed more information. I decided to look through her photos. There were pictures from the trip, but not as many as I expected. Some group photos with her friends, a few scenic shots of the resort, but nothing that stood out. I examined each photo carefully, looking for any clues or unfamiliar faces. In one of the group photos, I noticed a man standing at the edge of the frame, partly obscured. He looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place him. Frustrated and feeling like I was hitting a dead end, I decided to call my sister. Jessica was an insane internet sleuth and relentless when it came to uncovering the truth, especially about cheating. She had a knack for finding hidden details and connections that others might miss. She also scared me a bit with her intensity, but I hoped this wasn't a mistake. I needed answers, and I knew Jessica could help me find them. I texted her, asking if she could come over. Her reply was almost instant. "On my way. We'll get to the bottom of this." Her determination gave me a glimmer of hope, but I also felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. What if she found something I wasn't prepared to face? Jessica arrived within the hour, armed with her laptop and a fierce look of resolve. "All right, Daniel," she said as she set up her computer on the kitchen table. "Tell me everything." I recounted the events of the past week, From Emily's sudden silence on social media to the cryptic message on her iPad. Jessica listened intently, her fingers already flying across the keyboard as she took in the details. When I finished, she looked up at me, her expression serious. "We'll figure this out," she said. "But you need to prepare yourself for whatever we find." I nodded, feeling a mix of fear and relief. Jessica's confidence was reassuring, but I was also terrified of what she might uncover. I retreated to the living room, giving her space to work her magic. I sat there, numb, my mind racing with thoughts of what could be happening behind my back. After what felt like an eternity, Jessica called me back to the kitchen. "I've found something," she said, her voice grim. She turned the laptop towards me, showing a series of emails between Emily and a real estate agent named Greg. The emails started off innocuous enough, discussing potential investment properties. But as I scrolled through them, the tone shifted. There were hints of personal conversations, plans to meet up, and mentions of using Signal to communicate. My heart sank as I read through the messages. It was clear that Emily and Greg had been in contact far more than she had let on. Jessica's relentless search had uncovered the truth, and it was worse than I had imagined. "There's more," Jessica said, pulling up another set of messages. These were from Signal, which she had managed to access through some clever hacking. The conversations were intimate, with Emily and Greg discussing their plans to meet in Mexico and their feelings for each other. It was undeniable proof that Emily had been cheating. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. My worst fears had been confirmed, and I was left reeling. Jessica reached out, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she said softly. "But you needed to know." I nodded, unable to find the words to express my gratitude and despair. Jessica's investigation had provided the answers I needed, but they came at a heavy price. I felt numb, my mind struggling to process the betrayal. I then called my wife, Emily, home to confront her. I could feel the weight of the day pressing down on me, and I knew this conversation would be one of the hardest I'd ever have. The evidence was damning, and I needed to know the truth. Emily arrived home, her face a mix of worry and defensiveness, sensing the gravity of what was about to unfold. As soon as she walked through the door, the tension was palpable. We stood in the living room facing each other in a standoff of sorts. "We need to talk," I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and despair. "What's going on, Daniel?" she asked, trying to maintain a calm facade. I took a deep breath and looked her straight in the eyes. "I know about Greg. I know about the messages and the meetings. Why did you do it, Emily? How could you betray me like this?" Her face went pale, and she immediately shifted to defense mode. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, her voice shaking slightly. "Don't lie to me," I shouted, my frustration boiling over. "I saw the messages on your iPad. You met him in the lobby that night. You can't deny it." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she still tried to hold her ground. "Daniel, you're being paranoid. Greg is just a friend, there's nothing going on." The anger and pain I felt were overwhelming. "A friend? You expect me to believe that after seeing those messages? Is the app you said Signal? What kind of friends need to use encrypted messaging apps?" She looked down, her tears now streaming down her face. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "Then explain it to me," I demanded, my voice cracking. "Explain why you were meeting him in secret and using Signal to communicate." For a moment, there was silence. Then Emily looked up, her face twisted with a mixture of guilt and defiance. "Fine," she said. "Yes, I met him. Yes, we used Signal. But it wasn't an affair. We were just talking." "Just talking?" I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you really think I'm that naive? What were you talking about that you couldn't say over regular text?" Emily's frustration matched my own. "You don't understand, Daniel. I felt trapped. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood what I was going through." "And you couldn't talk to me?" I shouted, my heart breaking. "I'm your husband, Emily. You're supposed to be able to talk to me." "I tried," she said, her voice breaking. "But every time I tried, you were too busy or too stressed to listen. Greg was there for me when I needed someone." The room was filled with our shouts and accusations. The calm facade had completely shattered, and we were both raw with emotion. "You still haven't answered my question," I said, my voice lower now but still intense. "Did you sleep with him?" Emily looked at me, her face a mask of agony. "No, Daniel. I didn't. It never went that far." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that she was telling the truth, but the doubt was too strong. "How can I trust you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "How can I believe anything you say after this?" "We can go to counseling," she suggested desperately. "We can work through this together." I don't know if I can, I admitted, tears of my own welling up. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. The argument continued, our voices rising and falling in waves of emotion. We threatened each other with ultimatums, each of us trying to assert control over the chaotic situation. If you don't come clean now, Emily, I will file for divorce, I threatened, my voice cold and detached. She looked at me with a mixture of fear and defiance. You wouldn't, she said, but there was doubt in her voice. I have an appointment with a family law attorney tomorrow, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to protect our assets and figure out the legal path forward, regardless of what I choose to do. The reality of my words hung heavy in the air. We were both exhausted, emotionally drained from the relentless confrontation. I'm definitely more confused than I was this morning, I said, my voice softer now. But I'm also exhausted, sad, upset, and worried. I don't know what to do, Emily. I don't know how to move forward from this. We sat in silence for a while, the gravity of the situation settling in. I could see the remorse in her eyes, but the trust had been shattered. As I lay in bed that night, my mind refused to quiet down. The events of the day replayed in my head like a never-ending loop. I checked my phone and saw messages from friends and strangers alike, many offering support and advice. The next morning, I woke up feeling slightly more rested but still burdened by the weight of the previous day's revelations. I got ready for my appointment with the family law attorney, feeling a mix of dread and determination. This was a necessary step, regardless of whether I chose to work things out with Emily or not. At the attorney's office, I was greeted by a kind and professional lawyer named Mr. Harris. He listened attentively as I explained my situation, offering practical advice on how to protect my assets and navigate the legal aspects of a potential separation or divorce. First and foremost, Daniel, you need to ensure that you and your children are financially secure, Mr. Harris advised. This means documenting all your assets, including bank accounts, properties, and investments. You should also consider setting up separate accounts to protect your finances. I nodded, taking notes as he spoke. What about custody of the children? I asked, my heart aching at the thought of being separated from them. Custody arrangements can be complicated, but the court typically prioritizes the best interests of the children, Mr. Harris explained. If you and Emily can come to an agreement, that's ideal. If not, the court will intervene to determine the best arrangement for the kids. I thanked Mr. Harris for his guidance and left his office feeling a bit more prepared for the legal challenges ahead. But the emotional and relational aspects were still a daunting mountain to climb. I was determined to handle our separation in a manner that would minimize the impact on our children. The discovery of her betrayal left me reeling, but my primary concern was always the well-being of our kids. I knew that a contentious divorce could wreak havoc on their emotional stability, and I was committed to avoiding that scenario at all costs. With this in mind, I returned home with a heavy heart but a clear plan. As I entered the house, I found my wife in the living room, scrolling through her phone with a detached expression. The sight of her, so nonchalant after everything that had transpired, fueled a surge of determination within me. I took a deep breath and approached her, my mind racing with the words I needed to say. Emily, we need to talk, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. She glanced up at me, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she sensed the gravity of the conversation. I sat down opposite her, making sure to maintain eye contact, and continued. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I believe the best course of action for both of us, and especially for the children, is to divorce. She blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing her face, but she remained silent, allowing me to explain further. I want to do this peacefully, I said, my tone earnest. I want us to shield the kids from the turmoil that a bitter divorce can bring. They don't deserve to be caught in the middle of our issues. We can work out the details amicably, ensuring that their lives remain as stable and happy as possible. For a moment, I hoped that my words had reached her, that she understood the importance of what I was proposing. But then her expression hardened, and I knew that my hope was in vain. She stood up abruptly, crossing her arms over her chest. You're delusional if you think I'm just going to walk away from this marriage, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. I will never leave, and for the record, I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a long time. Her words were like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. I had anticipated resistance, but her outright refusal and declaration of lovelessness shattered any hope I had for an amicable resolution. The room seemed to spin around me as I processed the full weight of her rejection. I stood there, stunned and speechless, as she continued her tirade. You think you can just come in here and dictate how this is going to go? You think you can control everything? She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. You're a fool if you believe that. Her reaction made it painfully clear that our paths were now irrevocably divergent. The woman I once knew and loved seemed like a stranger, someone who was more interested in wielding control and inflicting pain than finding a way forward. The prospect of a peaceful separation evaporated before my eyes, replaced by the stark reality of the battle that lay ahead. As she stormed out of the room, I was left standing there, grappling with the harsh truth. My wife's refusal to cooperate and her admission that she no longer loved me meant that any semblance of an amicable divorce was now off the table. The path forward would be fraught with conflict and heartache, and the impact on our children, despite my best efforts, would be inevitable. In that moment, I realized that the woman I had married was gone, replaced by someone who seemed determined to make the process as difficult as possible. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I knew I had to steel myself for the challenges ahead. My priority remained the same: protecting my children and providing them with as much stability as possible, even if it meant navigating through a storm of bitterness and betrayal. In the days that followed my wife's revelation, our home transformed from a place of love and comfort into a battlefield. The tension between us was thick, a constant oppressive presence that weighed heavily on every interaction. It felt as though we were walking on a minefield, each step potentially triggering an explosion of pent-up emotions. Every glance, every word, and even the silence between us was charged with hostility. My wife, sensing my resolve, began to provoke me in subtle and not so subtle ways. She would leave reminders of her betrayal around the house, like an uncharged phone carelessly displaying her infidelity on the nightstand, or casually mentioning her trip to Mexico in conversations with friends on the phone. She seemed to delight in pushing my buttons, trying to elicit a reaction from me. Despite the anger and hurt boiling inside me, I remained silent, determined not to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. For the sake of our child, I put on a brave face. I continued to play with them, help with homework, and maintain a semblance of normalcy in our daily routines. I wanted to shield my child from the storm brewing between their mother and me, to give them some semblance of stability in a world that was rapidly crumbling around us. However, my wife's actions threatened to undermine my efforts at every turn. She began to poison our children against me. She would tell them things like, "Daddy is about to leave me. Please tell him not to do that," casting me as the villain in a narrative of her own making. Hearing her manipulate our children's feelings in such a way was like a knife to the heart. It was a cruel tactic, designed to turn our children against me and force me to stay through guilt and emotional blackmail. Living under the same roof became increasingly unbearable. The air was thick with unspoken accusations and unresolved anger. The house that had once been a sanctuary now felt like a prison. Yet despite the discomfort and the constant emotional assault, I remained determined to move forward. I knew that staying in this toxic environment would only harm our children in the long run. They deserved better than to grow up in a household filled with tension and hostility. With a heavy heart but a clear mind, I unilaterally filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery. It was a difficult decision, but I hoped that the legal system would bring some semblance of order to our chaotic lives. I longed for a resolution that would allow us to co-parent effectively, even if we could no longer be together. Filing for divorce felt like the first step towards reclaiming my life and providing a healthier environment for our children. As I navigated the legal process, my wife continued her campaign of manipulation and provocation. She refused to accept the reality of our situation, insisting that I was making a mistake, and that we could still work things out. But her words rang hollow in the face of her actions. She seemed more interested in maintaining control and causing me pain than in finding a way forward that was best for our family. The first court hearing was a sobering experience. The judge mandated a reconciliation period, as my wife refused to agree to the divorce. This was a blow to my plans, but I remained resolute. I continued to pursue the divorce, filing again and receiving a new court date 3 weeks later. During this period, the atmosphere at home grew increasingly toxic. My wife's refusal to leave and her clear disdain for me made every day a challenge. 3 weeks passed, and as the next court date approached, my wife dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant with our second child. This revelation threw me into a state of confusion and doubt. Could the child be mine? The timing was suspicious, given her recent infidelity, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. In the midst of this turmoil, I grappled with what to do next. Should I proceed with the divorce despite the pregnancy? The idea of raising a child who might not be mine weighed heavily on my mind. Moreover, the thought of being tied to my wife for the foreseeable future due to this new development was disheartening. Living with someone who clearly didn't love me and who I couldn't trust was taking a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. Each day felt like an uphill battle, and the uncertainty of the paternity of the unborn child only added to my distress. My wife's behavior during this period didn't help matters. She seemed more manipulative than ever, using the pregnancy as a tool to keep me tethered to her. Despite her claims of not loving me, she seemed determined to make my life as difficult as possible. Her refusal to cooperate in any discussions about a peaceful separation further highlighted her vindictive nature. It became increasingly clear that she was more interested in maintaining control and causing me distress than in considering what was best for our children or the unborn child. As the second court date loomed, I knew I had to make a decision. Continuing with the divorce felt like the only viable option, even with the complications of the pregnancy. The thought of spending more years in a loveless, contentious marriage was unbearable. But the question of the child's paternity still gnawed at me. If the child wasn't mine, it would only complicate matters further. I decided to confront my wife about the paternity of the child. Her reaction was predictably defensive, and she accused me of being paranoid and mistrusting. However, her vehement denial only strengthened my resolve. I knew I needed to get to the bottom of this, for my own peace of mind, and to ensure I was making the right decisions for my future. I consulted with my lawyer about the possibility of a paternity test. He advised that we could request one through the court, but it would likely be a contentious process. Nevertheless, I felt it was necessary. I needed to know the truth, not only for my own sake but for the sake of our children and the unborn child. If the child wasn't mine, it would be a clear indication that my wife had continued her infidelity even after our initial confrontation. The days leading up to the court date were filled with tension and anxiety. My wife continued to act as though everything was normal, even as the reality of our situation loomed over us. I did my best to shield our children from the worst of it, but it was impossible to hide everything. They sensed the tension and often asked why their mother and I were always arguing. Finally, the court date arrived. I reiterated my desire for a divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and her infidelity. I also requested a paternity test for the unborn child. My wife was visibly furious, but the judge granted the request. We were given another court date for the results and to continue the divorce proceedings. The wait for the paternity test results was excruciating. I oscillated between hope and despair, unsure of what outcome I even wanted. On one hand, if the child was mine, it would mean another bond tying me to my wife. On the other hand, if the child wasn't mine, it would confirm her continued betrayal and complicate the divorce proceedings further. When the results finally came in, I was both relieved and heartbroken to discover that the child was not mine. This revelation was a turning point. It solidified my decision to proceed with the divorce and provided clear evidence of my wife's ongoing deceit. Armed with this information, I felt more determined than ever to fight for my freedom and the well-being of my children. The next court hearing was intense. My wife tried to paint me as paranoid and untrusting, but the paternity test results spoke for themselves. The judge acknowledged the complexity of the situation but agreed that the divorce should proceed. The reconciliation period was waived, and we moved forward with the legal process. Despite this small victory, the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. My wife's manipulative behavior didn't cease, and she continued to make the process as difficult as possible. She tried to turn our children against me, claiming that I was abandoning the family. It was painful to see the confusion and hurt in their eyes, but I knew that staying in a toxic marriage would ultimately be more damaging to them. I sought support from friends and family, who offered a much-needed perspective and reassurance. They reminded me that I was doing the right thing by pursuing a divorce, even though it was incredibly difficult. Their encouragement helped me stay focused on the end goal, a peaceful, stable environment for my children and myself. The divorce process dragged on for several more months. Each court hearing was a battle, but I remained resolute. My lawyer was a steadfast ally, guiding me through the legal intricacies and helping me maintain my composure. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the divorce was finalized. The judge awarded me primary custody of our children, recognizing my commitment to their well-being. In the aftermath of the divorce, I focused on rebuilding our lives. The transition was challenging, but the sense of relief and newfound freedom was palpable. My children and I began to heal from the emotional wounds inflicted by the tumultuous relationship. We created new routines and traditions, fostering a sense of stability and security. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that standing up for myself and my children was the best decision I could have made. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted my strength, but ultimately, it led us to a better place. My ex-wife's attempts to control and manipulate us no longer held power, and we were free to move forward with our lives. Navigating a divorce is never simple, especially when infidelity and deception are involved. But through perseverance and support, I managed to break free from a toxic relationship and create a healthier environment for my children. The experience taught me valuable lessons about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of standing up for what is right. As we continue to rebuild, I remain committed to providing a loving and stable home for my children. They are my priority, and I will do everything in my power to ensure they grow up feeling safe, loved, and supported. The journey ahead may still have its challenges, but we are stronger now, having weathered the storm together. Brother made my life hell, then got my wife pregnant. Now he wants my help after our parents disowned him and left me their $2 million inheritance. My younger brother, David, has always harbored a deep-seated resentment towards me. If you think it stemmed from jealousy, you'd be wrong. He was the favored child, not me. There was no reason for him to be envious. To give you some context, our mother always indulged David. He was the golden child of our family. She cooked his meals, did his laundry, and even asked me to help him with his schoolwork. I was expected to assist him simply because we were family, but I never received the same consideration. I accepted this, as I was quite independent. Perhaps it was partly my fault for always meeting his needs without expecting anything in return. He never helped me when I needed it, and only approached me when he wanted something. While I was a quiet, introverted kid who enjoyed studying and keeping to myself, he was loud and rough, just like our dad. I also tend to be straightforward and honest, never sugarcoating things. I believe my mother may have developed a negative perception of me because of my straightforwardness. This favoritism made David the family's darling, and I didn't mind it while we were growing up. However, problems began when he started bullying and mocking me for being different from him. He would tease me about my height and the fact that I wore glasses. He would sneak into my room, read my diary, and then complain to my mom about what I had written. When I yelled at him and complained to our parents about him invading my privacy, they would laugh it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. He did more awful things, like nearly breaking my glasses and putting nasty things in my food. He even once put little stones in my cereal, but luckily, I found them before they could damage my teeth. When I told my mom, she dismissed it, saying this is how brothers bond. Whenever we fought, David would zero in on my insecurities to insult me. We went to the same school, so he knew I was being bullied by a few kids. Instead of supporting me, he sided with the bullies, calling me names like ugly loser or hairy monkey, and encouraging them to physically harm me, saying I was just a big failure. Another time, during a fight over something trivial that I can't even remember, he told me to kill myself. While I could easily brush off most insults, that one really hurt because I was struggling with my mental health at the time. I'm doing better now, but it was devastating to hear that my own brother wanted me dead. Since Dad was often at work and Mom didn't seem to care much, she even scolded me once, claiming it was my fault for irritating him. Things progressively worsened. During high school, there was a shocking incident when David attempted to set my hair on fire, and unbelievably, our mother defended him, claiming he was merely playing. Seriously, who behaves like that? Thankfully, my dad eventually sided with me and pointed out the gravity of the situation. He even threatened to call the police on David. This moment was a real eye-opener for my brother, as he had never faced any consequences for his actions before. He was genuinely stunned, and my dad made it clear that enough was enough and that David needed to start respecting his older brother. Later, Dad came into my room to talk. I never expected his support because he always told David how similar they were, which was true. Dad admitted that he had waited for years, hoping David would mature, but he was slowly realizing that David was becoming a big bully. Hearing this from my dad was incredibly validating, and I almost broke down in tears. I confessed everything David had done to me over the years and even mentioned the bullying at school. My dad was shocked at how much I had endured. The next day, he spoke to the principal to ensure the bullies were warned about severe consequences if they continued. Later that evening, Dad enrolled me in MMA at our local gym, telling me I needed to man up and stand up to bullies in my life. I admit that a nerdy kid like me trying to learn to fight might have seemed laughable, but I was very focused. I managed my time well to balance my studies and daily workouts, and the MMA classes completely changed my life and physique. One day, David was up to his antics again. He stole my pocket money, which we received for helping with chores. I had been saving it for a while. David sneaked into my room and took it. I caught him just as he was about to cycle off with his friends. I demanded he return my money, but David mocked me, saying all I could do was run to Daddy for help. I don't know what came over me, but I punched him in the face. He was stunned, fell backward, and I retrieved my money from his pocket before throwing him back down. David started crying loudly, which was quite comical. However, my mother rushed out to help him and find out what happened. When she learned I had fought him, she was surprised and reprimanded me, saying I should be a better role model for David, who seemed to enjoy seeing me scolded. My mother also complained to my dad about my behavior, saying I needed to be controlled. My dad grimly asked both of us to explain ourselves. I told him how David had stolen the money I had worked hard for and saved, while David tried to justify it by saying he needed the money for a date, and that as his brother, I should help him. However, Dad told David he was lucky I only punched him for stealing because anyone else would have called the police. He continued to tell David that he had no right to take others' things without their consent. David didn't like that and threw a tantrum, likely hoping our mother would side with him, but Dad remained firm. When David realized he wasn't going to be punished for being hit, he screamed how much he hated me and ran back to his room, locking himself in. Following that incident, David began to distance himself from me. He had finally understood that he couldn't bully me anymore, and that even Dad had stopped supporting his antics. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we were equals. Though he could no longer physically harm me, he resorted to verbal insults when our parents weren't around. His behavior worsened with age, becoming angrier and more short-tempered each year. When I approached him with a question, he would ignore me and walk away, muttering insults like nerd or loser under his breath. If he needed to communicate something, he would relay it through our mother instead of speaking to me directly. When I questioned her about why David couldn't just talk to me, she would urge me to be more understanding. I couldn't tell if it was just puberty or genuine hatred. Over time, dealing with his comments became unbearable, and I longed to move out and get away from him. I repeatedly asked my mother to mediate a sit-down conversation for us to resolve our issues, but she always refused, saying she didn't want to get involved. When I asked her opinion on why David treated me this way, she would brush off the question. Eventually, I left for my dream university, having earned a scholarship as a top student. My dad threw a party for me, and even my mom seemed proud. However, David remained aloof and distant, barely acknowledging my achievements. The day I left for university was a mix of excitement for the future and relief to escape the toxic home environment. The first few months at university were liberating. I made new friends, enjoyed my classes, and started to build a life separate from the oppressive atmosphere of my childhood. The constant fear of David's verbal attacks lifted, giving me a newfound sense of peace. During my second year, I met my wife Karen at a frat party through a friend, and we immediately clicked. Coming from a religious background, having kids outside of marriage was frowned upon. However, when we discovered she was pregnant in our final year, we decided to marry right after graduation. Our wedding was a small but joyful ceremony. Our parents were happy for us, and we enjoyed the celebration. At that moment, I believed Karen was the love of my life. I had always envisioned a monogamous relationship, one woman to come home to and share my life with. Despite other women showing interest over the years, I never pursued anything because I was genuinely content in my marriage. Karen was my dream girl, and I never wanted to hurt her. However, I later uncovered 2 incidents of infidelity in our marriage. One was an intermittent affair with her married co-worker that spanned several years, and the other was a brief fling with an ex-boyfriend during a visit to her family. Some might think I was naive, and looking back, I can't completely disagree. Each time we separated for a while, I chose to forgive my wife. I didn't want to raise our child in a broken home and believed we could overcome these obstacles. The affair with her co-worker happened when we were young, and I attributed it to youthful mistakes and poor judgment. For a period, things seemed to get better. Although I could never fully trust her again, I did my best to set aside my doubts, knowing that if I chose to forgive, I had to genuinely work toward a fresh start. It's been 4 years since her second betrayal, and I felt confident in my decision to give her another chance. Karen seemed to have changed, and we were genuinely happy, planning our family's future. However, 3 months ago, my world was shattered once more when she revealed that she had been having a long-term affair and suggested that our son might not be mine. Her words struck me like a ton of bricks. A mix of shock, betrayal, and disbelief overwhelmed me. I struggled to comprehend the enormity of her confession. In a daze, I managed to ask why she had kept such a significant secret and how she could have done something so devastating. Her reaction was cold and indifferent, as if she were detached from the pain she caused. Her vague responses left me with more questions than answers. It was a surreal and painful moment, confronting the shattered trust and uncertainty about my own family. I continued to press Karen for the truth because I felt I deserved to know the father of the child I had been raising since birth. Ultimately, she admitted it was David. My eyes widened in shock as I asked Karen what she meant. She explained that she and David had become friends when I introduced her to my family, and she stayed with us from Thanksgiving until New Year's. David, usually cold to me, was warm and polite towards her, which made me glad because I didn't want Karen to feel unwelcome. Karen wanted to be accepted into my family, so she spent significant time with my mom whenever possible. She noticed the rift between David and me and questioned me about it. I opened up about our strained relationship and explained that we might never repair it due to his unresolved feelings. Karen understood but started including David in our outings, hoping it would help us bond. Whenever we planned to watch a movie, she invited David, and we watched whatever he chose. During this time, David and I exchanged a few words, which was an improvement compared to his usual silent treatment. I remember Karen and David hanging out and playing video games together, but I never thought much of it. Karen told me that one day, David opened up to her about his struggles and a recent breakup. Feeling vulnerable, he struck up a friendship with her. She mentioned that he would harmlessly flirt with her when I wasn't around, and eventually, things escalated beyond her control. The vision of my wife and brother sleeping together made me feel sick. Karen confessed that she felt guilty afterward and left him, which matched her abrupt decision to go home instead of spending New Year's with me. Although I tried to convince her to stay, she was adamant about leaving. When we met back at college after the holidays, she was her usual cheerful self, so I didn't question anything. 2 weeks later, we found out she was pregnant. Karen admitted she didn't know if the child was mine or David's, and with no way to prove it, she chose to stay with me, knowing I was the more dependable brother. This was why we got married. My world felt like it was crashing down. The son I loved might not even be mine. I asked Karen if she had been sleeping with David recently, and she slowly nodded. She revealed that they had always stayed in touch because their chemistry was undeniable. They would sneak off to hotels, lying to me about working overtime. She admitted that half of her business trips were actually romantic getaways with him. I asked why she married me if she wanted my brother, and Karen said she didn't want to be the one to break off the marriage. She saw me as a wonderful father to our son and decided to stay. In her words, she made a mistake and didn't know when to stop. I told Karen I was glad she told me the truth but that I was going to pack up and leave. She started crying, asking for forgiveness, and expected me to yell at her. Instead, I calmly packed my clothes. Karen insisted that if I loved her, I should fight for her and that mistakes happen in every marriage. When she realized I wasn't going to do anything, she changed tactics, saying our son would be affected by a divorce and that children shouldn't be raised in broken homes. I reminded her that I might not even be the father, which made her cry more and accuse me of being cruel. It seemed like she believed nothing could make me want to leave the marriage. Perhaps it was partly my fault for letting things slide in the past. While I did love her, it felt more like it stemmed from thinking we had a son together and had been together since college. Karen kept insisting it wasn't too late to fix things, but I struggled to believe her and had no patience left. Trust was a major issue, and her words felt hollow. Even if I forgave her, I could never forget she slept with my brother. I've always believed in forgiving mistakes because we're all flawed, but this was beyond acceptable limits. I left her crying on the doorstep and checked into a hotel. The next day, I went straight to my parents and revealed everything about my wife's affair with David, explaining how they had been secretly sleeping together for years. The shock on their faces was undeniable. True to her nature, my mother initially tried to defend David, insisting that her boy could never do such a thing to his own brother. Determined to expose the truth, I asked my parents to remain silent and let me call David in front of them. I instructed them to stay quiet so I could catch David off guard, making him believe it was a private conversation. When David answered the phone, I confronted him about the affair. At first he vehemently denied it, refusing to accept any responsibility. However, when I told him that Karen had admitted to everything, he started blaming her, calling her characterless. He claimed it wasn't his fault if women were attracted to him and that he was the better-looking brother. I told him firmly that I would expose him to everyone. When David mocked me, saying no one would believe me because he was the golden child, I scoffed at his arrogance and thanked him for confirming the truth, knowing our parents had heard everything. David went quiet and then spluttered, trying to explain himself and salvage his image. My mother, still in shock, demanded an explanation from David. He stuttered through a feeble attempt to justify his actions, blaming everyone else but himself and desperately trying to shift the blame onto Karen. I could see my mother, who had once been protective of her favored son, now felt a mix of disappointment and anger. In that charged moment, I felt a strange sense of vindication. For years, I had endured David's torment. Now, the truth was out, and the roles were reversed. It was David who stood exposed, his actions laid bare for everyone to see. As David's words faltered, my father, usually reserved in his expressions, couldn't contain his disappointment. He asked me to pass him the phone and began to speak to David. "David," my father began, his voice laden with disappointment. "What you've done isn't just a betrayal of your brother, but a betrayal of this family. You slept with your brother's wife and continued the affair even after they were married. Your actions have severe consequences and have irreversibly shattered the trust we had in you. I raised both of you to value family, loyalty, and decency. What you've shown today defies everything I've tried to teach you." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink into David's conscience. "Your disregard for your brother's feelings and the lack of respect for his marriage are unacceptable. You've not only hurt him but also torn apart the bonds that hold our family together. Your mother and I are partly to blame for what you've become, but we will no longer tolerate this behavior. From today, you're cut off from the college funds I set up for you. You'll have to figure out how to pay your university fees on your own. I will also stop funding your lifestyle. Do you think it makes you more of a man to sleep with married women? Let's see how you manage without my money." Throughout this, I maintained a composed demeanor. Although I initially wanted to scream at David, watching my dad punish him was the ultimate vindication. I had exposed his true nature, and it was clear he had underestimated the consequences. My mother, despite David's persistent protests, continued to justify him, but my father swiftly ended the call, shutting down David's attempts to explain away his actions. Afterward, my mom approached me and hugged me. It had been a long time since we shared such a moment, but in that embrace, there was an unspoken understanding and support amid the family turmoil. She apologized for not believing me all this time. My 14-year-old self could never have imagined this moment, being vindicated and embraced by my mother. Following this, my dad helped me find a good lawyer to divorce Karen. She and her lawyer tried to fight dirty, asking for alimony since I earned more than her. But her affair played heavily in my favor. We also conducted a paternity test, and it was confirmed that David was indeed the father of the child. The news was incredibly painful, even worse than discovering Karen's infidelity. I was furious that the son I had loved and raised wasn't mine. However, I decided to stay strong. Karen begged me to continue visiting my son, arguing he shouldn't be punished for the situation, but I couldn't bear to see him. He reminded me too much of David, and I hated it. After my divorce was finalized, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me as I moved into my own bachelor pad. It felt surreal to live alone since I had married so young and never really had the chance to experience independence. However, my naturally independent nature allowed me to quickly adapt to my new lifestyle, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. 2 weeks ago, my dad called to tell me he was considering changing his will because he didn't want to leave anything to David. My dad is incredibly stubborn, and once he decided to cut David out of his life, he stuck to it. David tried reaching out to our parents and even showed up at their doorstep, begging for forgiveness, but they refused to let him in. Even my mother, who usually gave in to David's tantrums, seemed done with him, though it must have been hardest for her. David never texted me to apologize for what he had done, showing he didn't regret his actions. He was just upset about being cut off from our parents. Dad told me he planned to leave everything to me, ensuring David wouldn't contest it later. He would leave David only $1. My eyes widened in shock as my dad had worked hard his entire life. Including his assets, retirement fund, and life insurance, the total came to nearly $2 million. The only condition in his will was that if my dad passed away before my mom, she would continue living in their house, even though ownership would transfer to me. I didn't mind this, as I wanted to care for my mom in her final days. Somehow, David found out about this, and, unable to reach our parents, called me yesterday, trying to make amends. He explained how he was struggling with college and that after Karen discovered the paternity of the child, she had been pestering him for child support. He said he had no money and was looking for part-time jobs but couldn't find anything. He begged me to talk to our family to start fresh since he really needed my help. I laughed in his face and told him I was done with him. I reminded him that he should have thought about the consequences before sleeping with my wife and getting her pregnant. David argued that I was being unfair and that Karen was also to blame, to which I agreed. I reminded him that I had divorced her, making her his responsibility now. He shouldn't be calling me to complain about her or the child since these were the consequences of his own actions. David started to raise his voice, but I interrupted, reminding him that he was no longer the favored child in the family but the black sheep who had slept with his own brother's wife. At that moment, David began to cry, telling me how everyone, including our grandparents and relatives, had turned against him. While this was true, it was no longer my concern. I told him we were done and that he should never call me again since I no longer considered him my brother. Since then, I've replayed the conversation in my mind. Despite my hatred for my brother, I had never heard him cry, at least not since we were kids. I won't lie. It did hurt me a bit to see him so helpless. So, I guess I'm here to ask if I should talk to our parents about him or if I would be an asshole if I don't. Update 1. Hi everyone, many of you have been asking why I am no longer in contact with my son Henry, and some have even called me cruel. I need to explain that I am not comfortable raising another man's child. This isn't a stepson situation. I was led to believe Henry was my son, only to later discover he is actually my brother David's son. Naturally, this revelation hurt deeply, and I cried over it for days. The main reason I don't want any contact with Henry is that I no longer want Karen in my life. If I remain connected to her child, she will find a way to re-enter my life, and I need my space. You may think I'm cruel or selfish, but I can't see him ever again, at least not for a very long time. Update 2. Most of you correctly guessed that it was my mother who informed David about my dad changing his will, leading David to call me as a last resort to fix things. I confronted her in front of my dad, and she broke down, saying I had punished David enough and that he had learned his lesson. My dad firmly told my mother that if she believed what David did was forgivable, then he could no longer stay married to her because he could never forgive such a betrayal. This threat silenced my mother. My dad made it clear that if she ever talked with David again and we found out, she could pack her bags and leave. As I mentioned, my dad is very stubborn. Hopefully my mother will learn from her mistakes. Update 3. Reddit. It's been 5 months since my last update. My relationship with my parents has improved over the past few months. My dad and I go golfing every weekend, and he treats me more like a buddy than a son. Although my mother misses David, she has stayed away from him. The last I heard about David was from my cousin, who said David had been asking everyone for money, and eventually had to drop out of college because he couldn't afford the fees. He and Karen are living together, and he has a part-time job as a mechanic. Apparently they are raising Henry together, which is a good thing, I guess. I never discuss David with my parents, and they don't bring him up either. For everyone asking, I am doing quite well. I was promoted at my job 2 months ago, so my salary has significantly improved. I haven't been dating anyone as I feel I still need time and space to heal. I've been going to therapy, so we'll see how that works out.
I broke up with my girlfriend because she wanted to stay a virgin. Now she wants to get back together but had sex with someone else during our breakup. I, a 23-year-old male, met my ex-girlfriend, a 21-year-old female, 3 years ago. We lived on campus at university in different halls of residence. After a few months, we got together and for the most part had a very happy relationship. There was always one issue though. My ex grew up in a very religious home. Her father is a pastor. She has been open with her family that she does not share their faith. They weren't happy about it but accepted that she has to make her own choices on that. Nevertheless, I think some of that religious upbringing was still in her mind. I grew up in a different religion but was never very serious about it and am no longer religious. Our relationship was pretty normal except that she told me very early that she was a virgin and wanted to stay that way until she was married. It wasn't for religious reasons, as I mentioned she isn't religious. But she was very focused on not disappointing her dad. We did other sexual things, just not intercourse. I never had much luck with girls growing up and going into the relationship I was a virgin. And I still am. At least if you classify being a virgin as never having had intercourse. Anyway, I was becoming more resentful of the fact that everyone I know was having normal sexual relationships and we weren't. I couldn't understand why she didn't want to have a full sexual relationship, though of course I never pressured her about it. I felt that while I was at university, and pretty broke, getting married was something for the future. Last year, I was in my last year of university and she was working in her first professional job. Her degree was shorter than mine, so she finished university first despite being younger than me. She was talking a lot about all these successful guys she met at work, which did make me feel lesser as I was still a broke university student. Coupled with her still not wanting a full sexual relationship, it did make me feel more resentful. We had some arguments about it and after a while I felt that I should end the relationship as we wanted different things and our lives were on different paths. It was awful. She was crying a lot and I felt terrible afterwards. Anyway, it has been nearly 6 months since we broke up. We haven't been in touch at all for most of that time. I have not been involved with anyone else in that time, as I was 100% focused on finishing my degree. I have finally finished university and am about to start my first professional job. She recently got in touch again and asked to meet up. I was hesitant but decided we had so much good history that I should hear her out. She told me she's been missing me terribly these past 6 months. That she thinks she wants to get back together and is open to having a sexual relationship now. I asked her why now. What changed? And she looked uncomfortable. After a little prying, she said she had a short-term fling with one of the older guys at work while we were broken up. Which of course was fine as she wasn't my girlfriend anymore. Anyway, she said he persisted with her until she started having sex with him. She ended it with him recently. She was clear that it was consensual, but that the guy was very persistent with pursuing sex with her. I was gutted. I couldn't understand why she'd make me wait all those years, but was fine doing it with some new guy she'd only been seeing a short time. I asked if the reason she was open to having a sexual relationship now is because she wasn't a virgin anymore. She said yes. I asked her to give me some space to process all this. I'm conflicted and would love some advice on this. I have missed her a lot and still have strong feelings for her. But at the same time it feels like I was strung along for years. It's hard to put my finger on why I don't want to take her back. Everything logically makes sense for us to get back together. I'd even get to finally have a sexual relationship with her. But I feel awful about this whole thing and don't want to ignore those feelings. Some of the comments are being very harsh on my ex. And I guess that's not surprising. You don't know her. She's not some evil manipulative villain. At all. I would never have been with anyone like that. She's still the funny, smart, charming, beautiful girl I always knew. Any guy would be lucky to have her. I would be too if I could handle the baggage here, but I'm thinking I probably can't and a clean break is the way to go. Though she may regret the relationship with the other man, It's not my business as she was a single woman and we broke up. I wasn't ever expecting to hear from her again really. This whole situation is very surprising to me. I'm feeling hurt because I guess this is a solid blow to my ego. That I feel like the lesser man here. I can own that, and that's something for me to work on. Ultimately, I have some hang-ups about sex from this relationship that I need to deal with. A few people have suggested I could benefit from therapy. I'm going to look into that. I think I need help to process all these emotions from this situation. Relevant comments. I would ask her why she was willing to sleep with this guy after such a short relationship, but after 3 years she was not willing to sleep with you. OP's reply, I think this is the right question. Because I don't know why she didn't say. All she said was that the guy was persistent. I'm torn about whether to simply text her that I don't want to rekindle things and leave it all in the past. Or whether I should ask more questions about what happened. Because this hurts. I don't know if I'm ready to get details of her relationship with the other guy. Sometimes I just feel like I'm stunted in some way. A few comments have said I'm immature and they're probably right. I know I'm the one who ended the relationship and that she's entitled to do what she wants with anyone else. Still doesn't make it hurt any less. And maybe it's just best to say goodbye and leave all this in the past. Update 1. Hello again. I appreciate people taking the time to comment on my last post. The response was a lot more than I expected with over 2,000 comments. I'm amazed so many people wanted to comment about my situation. Thank you. Warning, this post is long. I have kept a daily journal since I was 16. A lot of what follows is dumped from my journal. Yes, I know I'm not concise. I'm going to refer to my ex as Ellie, not her real name. I'd like to write a bit about the comments because so many people took the time to provide their thoughts and I appreciate that. The majority of comments were some variation of move on. A clean break. A strong recommendation with a lot to recommend it. A minority said give her a chance and see how it goes. Plenty calling me an arsehole for ending it because I wanted sex in our relationship, or for being obsessed with her virginity. That I dumped her because she wouldn't put out. And quite a few saying my breaking up with her made her feel like sex is necessary to keep a guy and that it drove her heartbroken into the next guy's bed. There were a few she's pregnant comments. Not that I know of, it's not impossible, but if that happens it won't be anything to do with me. The dude's saying I should fuck her and leave her, or worse, seriously some of you guys need a hug or a psychologist. No, I would never use her like that, no matter our past. Ellie and I were a loving couple for years. That counts for something even after we broke up. Feeling hurt doesn't justify using her, or anyone else for that matter. As for comments that I have some hang up about taking her virginity. My issue when together was that we weren't having sex in our relationship, not whether she was a virgin or not. Her being a virgin was her reason for being abstinent, but wasn't directly an issue either way to me. If she hadn't been a virgin and wanted to be abstinent I would have been in the same situation. Bear in mind, for 3 years Ellie had everything she wanted from our relationship. Boyfriend, love, affection, loyalty, support, and a guy who respected her wishes to be abstinent. While she got 100% of what she wanted, for me there was a big element missing. And there was no way to reconcile that. Either we were having sex or not having it. Sex requires both to say yes, and that wasn't going to happen. With hindsight, I should have ended the relationship early on, when Ellie first told me she wanted to not have sex until marriage. When we got together I was a naive 19-year-old who had never had a girlfriend before, so I kind of went along with things because I really liked her and got along with her so well. I fell in love with her and then kind of felt stuck in a relationship that wasn't what I wanted. I've learned from this and won't make that mistake in the future. I want to make active, not passive choices in future relationships. To not just go along with things because that's what the other person wants. Our views about sex in our relationship were not compatible, so I ended the relationship rather than waiting any longer hoping she'd change her mind. It was scary to take that step and I put it off for way too long, because I didn't want to hurt her. But I couldn't stay in the relationship just for her. I had to also consider myself too. My mistake was waiting so long to get to that point. I regret that as it caused her more hurt than if I'd ended it early on. Many of you say that sex just isn't that important. But for me it is, at least as part of a relationship. You can disagree. That's fine. Some people are fine being in no-sex relationships. No judgment from me, but that's not what I want. Some people took issue with me saying I felt she strung me along. On reflection, that's fair. Ellie was clear to me about wanting to not have sex until marriage. I foolishly stayed way too long hoping she'd change her mind one day. She didn't. That was my mistake. I strung myself along really. She never led me on in any way. It hurt to learn that she had sex with the next guy relatively quickly after I waited so long. But she is my ex, so that is not my business anymore. She is allowed to change her mind. She can have sex, or not, with whoever she chooses. I don't get a say in that. My hurt is an emotional response, not a logical one. Logically, I see she did nothing wrong by me. I'll get over it. It's just my bruised ego if I'm honest with myself. Feeling I'm somehow a lesser man because she took that step with the next guy. I know objectively that isn't true, but I sure feel it. I was not a perfect boyfriend and I have made mistakes. I have learned from them. I don't regret breaking up with Ellie and still think it was the right decision for me. Enough background. A few things have happened. Last weekend was the Australia Day long weekend. I was on a camping trip, in the Grampians for any Aussies reading. It was so nice to be in nature, to do some bushwalks with friends and decompress. It felt good to talk about the Ellie situation with my mates around the campfire. Most of them knew Ellie pretty well from our years together and they had a range of views, just like the commenters on my post. And I got the usual good-natured shit about still being a virgin. I learned there's an expensive bottle of scotch they bought a while ago that's going to have its seal cracked when mine is. Bastards lol. One great question a friend asked was whether I would have ever decided to reach out and take Ellie back if she never reached out to me first. The answer is no. It was so obvious to me. That cut through a lot of the confusion for me. I was being too passive in this situation, and needed to do what I wanted. Not just react to what Ellie wanted. By the time I was on the way home, I had decided to not get back together with her. But that was moot. When I was driving home and got a mobile signal again, no mobile network where we had camped, the network delivered a bunch of messages from Ellie all at once. She said she was wrong to ask me to get back together and that she's back with Tim now. She also texted that the thing with Tim is more serious than she told me when she last met with me. She apologized for misleading me about her and Tim's relationship. If you remember, she called it a fling before. She asked if we could meet to talk about it. I was not happy, so I just texted back no. Not very mature of me, but I wasn't in the mood to hear more about all this. And I was surprised and pissed off that she lied to me. That seemed very out of character for her. She tried calling me, but I didn't want to answer. She sent another text saying, "Tim and I had a fight. I shouldn't have come to you. And finally, I'm sorry. When I got home I was an idiot and let my curiosity get the better of me. I looked up Tim online. His real given name is uncommon, so it wasn't hard to find. Found him on LinkedIn, which gave me his full name. Ellie is one of his connections and he works at the same firm, so I was confident it's him. He's a director at their firm, one level below partner. He also has pics on Insta. Lots of posts about his adventures around the world at various events and exotic places, as well as shots with an expensive-looking car. A few photos of him with Ellie with their arms around each other in Singapore in November. I guess that confirms it was serious. He wouldn't have public pics with her for a casual fling. All that just made me feel bad. No good comes from comparing myself to my ex-successful boyfriend. Ellie is not my girlfriend and I'm not in competition with Tim. So I won't do that again. My ego's bruised enough already. I have been living a very frugal life my whole time at university, aka poor as fuck, so I know I can feel inferior when I see people with wealth. That's another problem for me, problem to sort out. Anyway, all that was on Sunday evening. On Tuesday evening, Ellie knocked at my door. She said that she knew I didn't want to talk to her, but she felt bad about everything and hoped I would let her explain herself, clear the air, then I'd never see her again if that's what I wanted. I let her in. I was not happy with recent events but figured I might at least get a clearer idea of what's going on. It was a long, heavy conversation over 4 hours, but here's the gist as I remember it. When we broke up, she was devastated. She said it took a couple of months before she started to feel a bit better. She missed me constantly and wanted to see me the whole time, but when I ended it we agreed to keep apart and heal. In September, she met Tim at work. He manages a different team, she doesn't work for him. She said he was very charming and attractive and showed almost immediate interest in her. They got to know each other and he asked her out. She was worried it was a rebound but felt so much better getting his attention that she went along with it. After dating for a while she developed feelings for him and that later led to a sexual relationship. It wasn't a fling and she dated him for a while beforehand. I asked about whether he had pressured her into sex, last time said he was very persistent. She said she was trying to not upset me. She thought if she gave the impression she was reluctant to have sex with Tim that I wouldn't think as badly of her. So it was a story to try and spare my feelings. I told her it just made me worried she had been assaulted. She looked shocked at that and said no way. She was actually the one who initiated their sexual relationship. I said although I don't like that she lied to me, I can understand why. I don't think she did anything wrong changing her mind about abstinence. Yes, I was hurt when she told me she was having sex, but I have no right to judge her for anything. She's a single adult and it's her life. I don't think badly of her. She burst into tears and said something like, "I thought you must hate me now." I assured her that I didn't. She said she was sad it didn't work for us, but that she never would have dropped her virginity commitment if we had not broken up. After we broke up, she decided that it was a commitment she made to her dad when she was still a kid and it was messing with the life she wants now. So by the time she and Tim got into their relationship, she had already decided she was ready for sex with the right person. I asked about her dad and she just said he doesn't need to know. I asked about why she asked to get back together. Tim is older, she told me he's 32, and has been at the firm 10 years. One day at work, one of the women made a snarky comment to Ellie about being another one of Tim's girls. She did some digging and it turns out Tim has a history. He has dated a long list of women from work, several of them were young graduate employees just like Ellie. The rumor around the office is that Ellie is just the next girl to get used by him. She was horrified. She accused him of using her. They argued and she told him it was over. Soon after that she came to me. She felt as if we might be able to rekindle things now that she was open to a sexual relationship. But my hesitation and time to calm down made her realize that was a mistake. Over the weekend, Tim asked her to work things out. She decided to give it a chance. She tried to call me but they went to voicemail. I was camping, so she sent those messages instead. So I guess that's settled. I don't want her back and she's in a relationship so she doesn't want me back either. We chatted a bit about how our families are going. She congratulated me on finally finishing university. She asked if I'd been seeing anyone and when I told her I'd been studying hard and working a lot since exams, retail job, with no time for girls, she laughed and said I'm still a big nerd. She hoped we could be friendly if we ever see each other. But she wants to keep out of contact out of respect for her relationship with Tim. She wants to give it a real chance of working. Which is fair enough. She gave me a hug, said thank you for understanding and left. So there you have it. Ellie involved me in her relationship drama. I would have preferred she hadn't, but at least it's sorted now. I'm glad I paid attention to my feelings and took time out to consider things, as it could have been very messy if I had taken her back. Trusting my gut has been the biggest lesson for me in all this. I still care for her despite recent events. It seems like she is dealing with a lot of complicated things between her new relationship and work gossip. I wish her well and hope she will be happy, whether it's with Tim or not. She was my first love and I expect I'll always have warm memories of her. But I am clear now that I don't want her back. She is my past and I want to look forward. Well, this has become an essay. Tutors at university always told me I was too waffly in my writing. Well, fuck those guys, I'm not a student anymore. I can now focus on launching my new career with no distractions. I've worked so hard for so long to get here. My new job starts on Monday. It's going to be so great building actual real experience in my new profession, not just endless theory. I'll be earning much better money, no more student poverty. And I've got graduation in May to look forward to as well. I'm open to finding someone new, but that is way down my priority list. I'm not going to actively pursue that anytime soon. OP on Ellie changing. I came to terms with our relationship months ago. When she came back to me, it stirred up some old feelings, because we'd been a couple so long. But thinking about it now, that was more of an echo of those memories than real feelings. All of this drama was Ellie's doing. I would have preferred she never involved me so I could have been blissfully ignorant of her romantic life. I'd prefer to not know about her worldly, rich boyfriend. Or their sex life. She's definitely changed. The Ellie I remember was scrupulous and honest to a fault. The Ellie I have dealt with recently wasn't like that so much. I think that's why her lying to me pissed me off so much. It wasn't just lying. It was how out of character it seemed. But people change. She's in the business world now, and people there live by different standards to the religious family she grew up in. Anyway, I have cut myself out of her life. So anything that happens with her is hers to deal with. If she comes back to me, I'll remind her we agreed to stay apart and leave it there. I am not looking for another relationship right now. So no Tinder for me. And no, I am not looking for casual sex either. I'm a virgin, but I want a meaningful connection, not just sex. As I said in the post, I'm open to something if the right woman came along. But I'm not actively seeking it. That might change after a while, but right now I want to keep focused on my new career. OP on having closure. A lot of the comments here act like that final meeting was all for her benefit. Sure, she got some kind of relief or closure out of it, but it was also good for me. Seeing who she is becoming just made is 100% no doubt in my mind that we wouldn't ever make sense. She has changed a lot in the last year, starting when we were still together and she had started her job. Random phrases like, work hard, play hard, being generally less kind and more dismissive of others. Clearly she was being influenced by those around her, but it was her choice to take on those behaviors. I love the old Ellie, but I'm not sure I even like the current one much. Anyway, I didn't feel like she intruded. I felt like I got a nice neat ending to the whole thing and can get on with my life with a clear conscience. But we're clear now that it's over forever and I have her promise that she will stay out of contact. If she ever does try to come back I can remind her of her own promise and close the door. Update 2. If you recall from my previous posts, my ex Ellie and I mutually agreed to be no contact after some drama on her part. At the urging of Redditors I also blocked her to help maintain no contact. I've been working since February as a graduate engineer and it's been everything I hoped it would be. I'm meeting amazing smart people, learning so much every day and am finally earning a salary after years of being a broke student. Having a little money in the bank and being able to afford to do things like eating out is such a nice change. When I finished university in November, I moved in with my brother temporarily. He'd just broken up with his ex and needed help with his rent. That's where I was living when Ellie last came to see me. He found a new housemate, and since his place was on the wrong side of the CBD for my job, I moved into a shared house in the southeast of Melbourne. The place is a bit run down but the rent is reasonable, by insane Melbourne standards, and there are lots of pubs, bars and restaurants nearby. The location and my housemates have been great. I'm seeing someone. I'll call her Olivia, not her real name. She's the sister of one of my housemates. We met when my housemates and I had a BBQ and she dropped by. We got talking and were still talking hours later until everyone else had left. Her brother told us to STFU so he could get some sleep, haha. I asked her out that week and we've been close since. My housemate, her brother has been making fun of us ever since, including more than a few crude jokes when she stays over. We agreed to be exclusive 6 weeks ago so it's still quite new. She's so cool, and smart, and gorgeous. The chemistry was instant and intense from the moment we met, we just clicked so well. It's such a great time when we're together. Olivia is an accountant at a big firm. One of Olivia's workmates was having a party last month. She asked me to come to meet some of her work friends. We went inside and Olivia introduced me to the woman who hosted the party, her workmate Jess. There would have been maybe 40, 50 people there. I didn't know anyone but Olivia. At one point I offered to grab more drinks. The kitchen was in a separate room. As I was getting them, a guy asked me to pass him a beer from the fridge. I introduced myself and he said, "Hi, I'm Tim." We chatted a couple of minutes about our jobs and how we know Jess, then I just said nice to meet you and returned to the group. I didn't recognize his face as I'd never met him before, but it was definitely Ellie's Tim, his job and firm lineup. And he looked in his 30s, a bit older than most people at the party. Neither of us mentioned Ellie when we were talking. Later on I asked Jess how she knew Tim. She said she used to work at the same firm as Tim, also where Ellie works, but she moved to another employer, where Olivia works. Despite living in a city of 5 million, it's still a small world. On the tram ride home I must have been quiet because Olivia asked what was on my mind. I said that the Tim guy at the party was, or maybe still is, my ex's boyfriend. I said I didn't think he knew who I was, or if he did he didn't say anything. That prompted me to share some history about me and Ellie. Olivia was wide-eyed and said, "You never told me you were a virgin." Then she laughed and said, "Well, we took care of that." She asked if I had any feelings for Ellie and I truthfully said no. I dealt with all that months ago. More recently, there was a formal charity dinner that Olivia was asked to support. Her employer was a sponsor of the event. She was keen to show me off. We were at a table with a bunch of her work colleagues. Nice people. One of her work friends was so excited to meet me, and Olivia can't stop talking about you. That made me feel really good. After dinner a few of us were chatting and I got a tap on the shoulder. I turned around and to my surprise it was Ellie. Tim was with her. It was so weird to see her again. Tim said he remembered meeting me at that party but never made the connection to Ellie until just now. She must have told him about me. Ellie looked very different. She had lost a lot of weight and was very slim. The tight red dress she was wearing made that obvious. Her dad would not approve. Not that she was ever overweight, but I'd never seen her that thin before. She was immaculately made up with what looked to my ignorant eye like expensive jewelry. She'd changed her hair too, now blonde instead of her natural auburn. She looked like a sleek rich girl, not the poor pastor's daughter I remember. Don't get me wrong, she looked amazing, But she looked like a different person. I know it was a formal event, so we were all dressed nicely, but this was a major transformation. Despite her glam looks, when I saw her I didn't feel anything for her. Just nothing. Ellie said she was so glad to see me and she had some news, holding out her hand to show a diamond engagement ring. I know nothing about diamonds, but it looked pretty big and expensive to me. I offered my congratulations to them both. Just then Olivia walked back over. I introduced her to Ellie and Tim. Olivia put her arm around me and Ellie's smile seemed to kind of freeze. I didn't really know what else to say, so I just said nice to see you again and wished them all the best for the wedding. Tim walked off and Ellie just sort of stood there a moment. It was awkward. Later on as we were leaving, Ellie was staring at us as we walked out. Olivia said later that, I think she still has a thing for you. I said it doesn't matter. Anyway, cut to a few days ago. My brother messaged me saying Ellie stopped by looking for me. Yes, Reddit, you were right. He knew to not share my new address with her, so all he said was I'd moved out. Next day I received an email from an address I hadn't seen before. It was Ellie. No acknowledgement that she was breaking our agreement to be no contact. No mention she stopped by my old place. It said, it was so great to see you again. I've missed you, and, that girl you were with is pretty, how serious is it? And telling me she and Tim have big plans for their wedding next year and she hopes I can come. I was annoyed because she is trying to make her life my business. Again. Despite promising no contact. Even going to the trouble to make a new email address to get around me blocking her. I showed Olivia the email and she rolled her eyes and asked me to think about why my ex would send me that. Why indeed? Olivia is great at cutting through bullshit and reads people way better than I do. Ellie can't have me back. I'm in a relationship now, plus she's engaged, and it's not like I would go to their wedding. Who goes to their ex's wedding? It wouldn't be right. I don't know why she's trying to contact me, but I can guess that she wants to use me for emotional support again. Or maybe things are rocky with Tim, who knows? Whatever she wants, it's not happening. She has family and friends, she can talk to them. I deleted the email and blocked the address without replying. Ellie promised she'd keep out of contact and just couldn't help herself. I still intend to keep my word of no contact, even if she doesn't. I've also set up a filter to send any email containing her name to the bin. Olivia and I had a talk after that. I asked if she was concerned about the Ellie thing, but she said no, she's not worried, she didn't get serial killer vibes from Ellie. I'm glad none of this has put her off me. So nothing too dramatic, but it does prove you guys were right. Ellie couldn't not contact me despite promising to do so. I was able to sidestep her much more easily than last time. Ultimately, this is a good news story. Life is so great right now. I've got a cool new girlfriend, a fun place to live and a new career I love. It has been easy to leave Ellie behind. I have 2 weeks to escape my controlling and abusive husband before he returns from a business trip. Throwaway account as my husband and in-laws are following my main. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 30M, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long every single time I leave the house without him. At first I just thought he was being protective and a good partner just in case something happened, but then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his, as he's in charge of the finances when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday, when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating, and his family, who I've spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him, he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy on his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave, but there's so much to do. Bergen, finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight is on May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit. Oh my god, you guys are amazing. I never even thought to not use his divorce papers. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state, that much I remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving. No pets yet, thankfully. Update 1. So I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to double-check everything I tell him with the other people there, right down to each person I talk to and what I said. Did I send any text messages? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the Reddit subs my in-laws' families are part of are related gardening and DIY, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked about my job and explained things to my manager. And they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now and done all other planning, either in the bathroom pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those, considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there, they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or I'm still going to be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork. My husband had prepared and both said that it did have some clauses in it. That could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us was the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical. Like several hair suggested, I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to, and I have. As a precaution, I began looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas. Just in case one of those, this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into, then I will just have to quit, move and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutuals and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously my in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, all updates when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns though. Just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2. Good news. My work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country, but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back for just the 2 of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking Mill to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, I've found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is in 5 days, we're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power if he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm. I will have all of my stuff moved that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap phone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier, number and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly and it was clean, thankfully. No other electronics aside from my laptop and new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave, and I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the plane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle in. Update 3. It's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I am now out of the house and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home, that actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house: my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings, and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early in the morning, and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to air out everything to the public about his actions if it means securing my freedom from him. I will go to court as long as I must to get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it before he's handed the divorce papers. I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced, to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP as I want to get a full test just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something with so many things to do and think about. I kinda thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still and have applications in at 3 different places and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible, and it is best we separate now. That his treatment of me when I'd done nothing to deserve as such was just as much of a deal breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with the statement that I would not be contacting him further and anything else he needed to pass on to me or vice versa would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wish they would help support both partners and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance at getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV, and putting several holes in the walls. At least that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took, with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at head height. Alex is 6'3", and I'm 5'4", so he knew that was false. Either way, taking the pictures definitely will help me, so again, thank you everyone here for the advice because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about. And no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. Update 5. It's been a little bit, and I thought I'd answer some questions before giving my update. It may be a while after this until things change. Firstly, no, I didn't bring my car. The public transport here is good enough to use without needing one. I have secured an apartment, and the building has good security. You need a key card to enter, and there is a security guard at a desk right by the entrance to the building. As part of my contract, I gave them a photo of Alex and his family so that even in the off chance they do find me, they won't be let in. The responses I got from the emails varied. His family said I was overreacting, and that I owe Alex an apology for the problems this has caused him. The pending criminal charges puts him at risk of losing his job if he's convicted. Alex sent a long email, apologizing and pleading for me to come home. He said he was worried for me, that he is willing to go to therapy if it will appease me. He wants us to remain together, and he didn't think leaving was an appropriate response to his genuine concern and worry for my health and safety. The friends gave somewhat lacking replies, saying that they didn't think Alex was ever going to hurt me and that I shouldn't be letting my imagination run away wild. As much as I want to say I was surprised by the lack of support, I'm honestly not. He intends to fight the divorce. I am letting my lawyer handle it, and I am also pursuing a protective order as well. Once I got approved for my apartment, I also froze my credit. I've changed my phone carrier and number, as well as making sure none of my documents list Alex as next of kin or POA. Some have asked why I was so paranoid about Alex and his possible future actions. The answer for that actually is somewhat simple: my grandmother. I love that woman to bits. As a teen, she explained why my grandfather was never around. He was extremely abusive and manipulative, and her generation didn't allow divorce really. She wouldn't have been able to buy a house or get a good enough job to support her and my mother on her own. As such, she endured it, shielded my mom as she could until my grandfather died. When I felt like I may have been overreacting, I remembered how she'd said she'd always wished she'd been able to see grandfather for what he was early on when she may have been able to annul the marriage. I don't know when I'll update again, maybe when the divorce goes through or if something big happens, but until then, I'm just trying to keep my head above the water. Update 6. It's been a month since my previous update, and I wanted to share some of what's been going on in the meantime. The divorce is proceeding, but even though I don't need him to agree, and he's not, it means I have to go through the courts to get it approved. As such, it could be upwards of 6 months to push it through even though I'm filing without attempting to claim property, alimony or compensation. I just want a clean break and separation. Alex has attempted to use our friends to reach out to me, as he doesn't want to use my lawyer for communication. He's saying it's disrespectful and cowardly to hide behind my lawyer and not meet him face to face. Alex wrote me a letter that he did pass off to my lawyer, but the contents were him justifying his actions and claiming that in today's time it is dangerous for women to be on their own, which is why he was so intent on trying to keep me safe from harm. He wanted me to understand that he was trying to protect me as best he could and was hurt that I would just lie to him and hide my actions from him related to my dissatisfaction with our marriage and my moving. I didn't reply, because at no point did he apologize. All he did was turn everything around on me as I was being overly dramatic, emotional and cowardly. There was a second letter with Alex's from my cell. Her letter was honestly disturbing and completely justified my misgivings regarding approaching her in any kind of professional capacity. She spent 5 paragraphs detailing how aerial abusive relationship looked like and that Alex was the furthest thing from abusive. The details she included were all related to financial abuse and physical abuse, nothing like what Alex had been doing. She stated that my attempts to smear her brother's name for attention and clout made me the abuser, not him. I haven't really been able to process that, admittedly. Part of me can't help but wonder if she's right. I mean, I blindsided him by leaving as I did and am refusing to speak with him at all. My old boss recommended that I look into getting into therapy after I moved, and I think I need to. I've had a hard time adjusting to being on my own. I keep censoring myself and haven't even gone out to eat yet. I always end up worrying about what if someone sees me, what if I get in trouble for spending my money on something frivolous. My lawyer is continuing to fight for the divorce, and I shouldn't need to be physically present in court. Any meetings needed between me and the judge can be done via Zoom. I'm trying to avoid confrontation with Alex and his family for now as much as I can and pass both letters to my lawyer in case he needs them. Our friends are mostly trying to avoid taking sides still, and I'm honestly approaching the point of just letting them go as well. I'm tired of fighting for them to understand at this point. I don't know if anything is going to happen, so my next update may not be until around mid-November, depending on how long it takes to push the divorce through. Work is going well, and it's helpful to have something familiar to anchor my day-to-day life when so much has changed and is changing even now. After being married for nearly 35 years, I discovered that my husband had a side piece for 2 years. I was devastated and decided to divorce. I've been married almost 35 years, yes, to the same person. And while it hasn't been perfect, it's been all right. Kids, dog, white fence. I've got those. Our personal lives have suffered somewhat. I went from being a virgin on my wedding night to stepping out of my comfort zones to please him sexually. Household of 3, to where Saturday, it will be 6 years since we've been intimate at all. For the longest time, I thought he was having an emotional affair with his male friend, that he had fished with, but had become ill with cancer, because he would drop everything and anything for him, including plans we had, for him. Plus, there were a few texts that, while not sexual, were more than friendship. But for some reason, while I was hurt, I was not threatened. I know he is extremely ill, there is no physical relationship going on, his time is short, and once this was out of his system, he would be back to his normal self and me, his wife. I'm really sorry if my words sound crude, that's not how I want them to sound. But once he passed, my husband would be back to me. So I was gone this past week, dog sitting, house sitting for my sister, and got home last night to check the mail. There was a blank envelope with everything typed. Inside was a short note, picture above. I know who the female is, it's one of his friends. I'm completely devastated. To me, a woman is harder to compete with. What does she have do that I don't? I decided to get healthy and lose weight. I've lost over 130 pounds. I don't hear anything from him. I went to the doctor last week, dressed nicely, and he told me I was embarrassed, that his wife was running around town looking like a whore, with her tits hanging out. I had a slight off-the-shoulder white eyelet with dark jeans. Since finding this out, I've become obsessed with finding evidence. I stalk her Facebook, their call logs. He calls her an average of 68 times a day with calls lasting 15 minutes. I'll drive by her house. I'll type and delete her name, phone number, address, wanting to confront both of them, blame her, blame him. Wonder what she has that I don't, how I can fix this. Do I want to fix it, does he? What should I do? Where do I go? How? I've cried for 2 days now. I can't stand to look at him, and I'm afraid to talk to him. Update 1. So after a few days of crying and feeling miserable, I became obsessed with finding more information. Mind you, this all came to light last Sunday. Before that, I was walking around in an ignorant state of not knowing. So I started scanning phone logs, daily phone calls to and from her 6 to 7 plus times a day, 20-40 minutes each. I had a typo in my first post. I went through his office, nightstand, etc. I don't know exactly what I was looking for, but I was looking for something. I would drive by her house when he would leave. In other words, I was going crazy. And by Wednesday, I broke. I was tired of him acting like it's a normal day, that there was nothing going on. I could not take it anymore, and I first wanted to talk to her. So I took off in my car, drove to the dog park, empty. So I drove to her house, started pounding on her security door, and ringing her doorbell. She has a ring, telling her to open her effing door, and if you're woman enough to FK a married man, you should be woman enough to talk to his wife. This went on for maybe 10 minutes or so. She didn't answer. I texted my husband that we needed to talk and that, I know. My sister is on the phone with me trying to calm me down and get me to leave her place before the police are called. In the 3 minutes, yes, he picked someone in our community, it took me to get home. Not only had she called him, she also sent him the video. So I confronted him, somewhat. It was more like he gaslit me the entire time. He said, "Get your ass in the house, I can't believe you did something so effing stupid," etc. And turned it around on me. "You're always sitting on the couch unless your sister invites you out." And he didn't deny he was with her, "It's none of your business." When I asked if he would stop seeing her, he said he would not give her up. She is a good friend of his. And the biggest smack in my face, he wants me to apologize to her for embarrassing her in her neighborhood. And I guess she is talking about filing a restraining order against me. So Thursday and Friday, I finished my pity party, and Saturday, I started doing things I never thought I would have to do on my 35th anniversary. I reached out to divorce attorneys. They were closed but filled out the forms for consultations. I also started a resume and applied for jobs, but after not working for 20 plus years, what kind of work am I going to be qualified for? I stayed at my sister's this weekend. I needed the change of scenery between his attitude, the not happening anniversary, and the funky feeling. I needed a break. Update 2. So it's been about a month since I found out about his affair. It still sucks. And I'd like to say I've totally gotten over him, but one doesn't turn off feelings like a light switch. At least I don't. And sometimes, I think, maybe we can fix this, but then he does something awful again, and I'm back on track with my plans and goals. So I've set goals for myself and have been working towards them. My first one, get a job. I was a housewife for 99% of my marriage. Not only did I get one, I found 2 that I can work at the same time. I opened a secret account, not in my name, and am stashing all my extra money in it. He controls all the house money tightly, so I have to get creative. He knows about one job, not the other one though. I've gone back to school to get my degree, geared towards what I'm doing. So far, it's going well. I'm remaining positive and pushing forward, even when he gets negative towards me. "You're just going to quit, you will flunk out," etc. I am saving for a small place, hopefully a little ADU or an apartment, that will allow my little dogs. Once the apartment is lined up, then I will file for divorce. I need to make sure I have a safe place to go because he will become nasty once served. So far, things are calm here. I don't ask about her, although they still speak daily, and I'm sure they are hanging out. In our community, It's like he is trying to rub my nose in it. The thing is, I'm not letting him know or see that it's bothering me at all, which in turn is bugging the crap out of him. So he threatened to take my phone away. Okay, fine, I went and bought a cheap burner phone, just in case he does. So now he has switched to being nice. He has bought parts for my car, paid the labor, bought my scrubs and equipment I need for work and school. He asked for a list and bought it. It's times when he's nice, I think there might be hope for us. But as long as she is in the picture, nope. Then he turns back into the ass again with empty threats, knocking down my confidence, and I'm back to counting months until I can move. Update 3. I'm still on my phone and just worked an overnight shift, so I'm tired. We are in the month of June, and quite a bit has transpired, some good, some not. I finally broke down and told my kids. Those were extremely difficult calls to make, and I told them everything. I took responsibility for my part and admitted I could have done things better. My kids, all older, said that while not perfect, I did my best with what I had, and that didn't excuse his cheating. My eldest wanted to come out and confront his dad and the other woman. I told him it wasn't worth it. My second son, the thinker, didn't say much but was deep in thought. My third son said, "It's about time, with the way he talked to you and treated you. I hope you're thinking about leaving." I was honestly on the fence. He would flip-flop between wanting to work on us and his actions saying differently. The past 2 weeks have been the worst. Since he has been using my son's car, my son put a tracking device in it. Yes, I have access to it, and no, he does not know about it. He would tell me he was going to one place and go straight to the other woman's house. If I asked where he was, he would lie to my face. I just kept notes until I couldn't anymore. Father's Day. I had worked the night before, got off work at 8 a.m., texted him what he wanted for dinner that night, stopped at the store, bought everything, came home, got it started, and tried to take a nap. Mind you, he did nothing whatsoever on Mother's Day. He woke me up to borrow $40 to go to a sporting goods store. I said fine and reminded him dinner was in an hour to an hour and a half. 2 hours later, he was not back. I checked the tracking. He went straight to her house and hadn't moved. So I did a drive-by. His car was parked in the garage, she was parked outside, so I came back home. I was more upset for my son. I texted him, "You need to come home, we need to talk. I know you're not at the sports store." Nothing. After 30 minutes, his car still had not moved, so I called her. Of course, she didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "I know my husband is at your house, you win, I'm done. It's obvious he wants to be with you. I'm tired of the lies, his bull, he doesn't want someone who has loved and fought for him for 35 years. I'm done, come get his dog and his stuff, you've won." 10 minutes later, he came in with a Walmart bag and said he went to Walmart and a friend made tacos for him. I dished up servings for my son and me, then threw the rest of the meal in the trash. He gave me an attitude because she feels threatened now that I called her. She has to change her number and might lose clients. I didn't threaten her. I told him if he wasn't happy here, he knew where the door was and was welcome to use it. He was quiet all week but still a jerk, and his only concern was seeing that woman. I had melanoma removed and needed a driver, so he took me. When I got in the car, not one word, not "How are you? How did it go? Are you okay?" Nope, all he said was, "I'm hungry." And it was the 30th anniversary of losing my sister to melanoma, so I was extra sensitive. Little things were just adding up. He was forgetting things I needed or had asked for. I was at the bottom of his list. On our son's birthday, he couldn't even wait for him to blow out the candles before he went to her house. This last Sunday, he was going through the kitchen cabinets, pulling out some soup and said he was going to take it to a couple who had been stranded down the road for a couple of weeks in a broken-down RV. So I gathered a few more items, and he left the bag of stuff on the counter. I checked and yep, he went right to her house. This was it, my last bit of energy for this marriage. I texted him again. "I don't understand why you need to lie. There is no dog park, hiking trail, fishing spot, sporting goods store, broken down RV, nor Walmart on Bunker Hill. Why not be honest and tell me you're going to her house? It's obvious, regardless of what you're saying, you don't want to work on our marriage. You have and are choosing her over your family." And I sent it. I tried to call him. He didn't answer, so I texted. "Didn't think you would answer." Not even 5 minutes later, he came screeching into the driveway, slamming into the house screaming, "What the F is wrong with you, you fing mother fing b?" I'm sure if I was in the same room as him, he would have hit me. I told him I'm tired of him lying to me. Just tell me he's going to the whore's house. He's been going there the entire time and yet still lies about it. Doesn't he think if I'm questioning where he is I know? He called me a few choice names and ignored me the rest of the night. I'm sure my neighbors loved it. I went yesterday, Monday, to file for divorce and got bad news. Because he is a 1099 employee and hasn't technically worked in almost 2 years, although my bills are paid, I'm not in his bank accounts. I never have been. I've always had to ask for money from him. Because he stopped me from doing his taxes 3 years ago, saying they were too complicated for me. If I were to file for divorce right now and ask for alimony, he could immediately file to lower it, and the judge could agree with him. My lawyer suggested waiting 3 months to file, as he is now working again, started this week and submitted paper bids. I'm to collect as much evidence as I can in the meantime. The lawyer was impressed with what I had so far. So, I'm planning and playing it cool till September. Relevant comments. Comment 1, I know this hurts now, but you will be better off without someone draining your life. I don't know much about this, but I think you should get a second opinion from another lawyer. 1099 forms still count as proof of income. They might be able to subpoena those and his full tax records, even if he hasn't filed them. Reply, he owns his own business and gets a 1099 from the company he subcontracts through. I haven't seen a tax return in 3 years since we file separately. I try to look when he's not home, but his office is a mess. I'll keep searching because there must be something. OOP on why she needs alimony. My children are all grown, and I just started working again 2 months ago after spending most of our marriage as a housewife, taking care of him and our kids. My youngest son is 20 but has special needs and mentally is about 12. Earlier, when I found out about the affair, I would have done anything to get him back. Now. No, I don't want him back. I deserve better. OOP on securing legal documents. All those documents have been moved to a safe place since April. OOP explains why she is waiting until September for alimony. I've lasted this long and honestly, if I left now, I couldn't afford a decent place with my son, even with my job. After everything I've done, including caring for his mom, helping with his business and running the home, I deserve it. I just want what's fair to get a safe place for my son. According to the lawyer, it could mean the difference between $500 a month and $4,500 a month. These are rough figures, but it's a substantial difference. We annulled our engagement because my fiancé valued friendship more than love when I asked his best man to wear a tuxedo. I, 26, am getting married to Mark, 28, a handsome, responsible, intelligent man with a kind heart and a great sense of humor. My sister Jennifer, 23, is going to be his best man. Jennifer is best friends with my husband Mark, 26. He's known her more than twice as long as he's known me. We only really met and talked at any length about 3 years ago or so. They were co-workers together at her high school job, and she's been a part of his gaming group since then. They went to the same college, and they're co-workers again now working for his friend John's, 42, company. Mark was in college for the better part of a decade getting 2 undergraduate degrees and his PhD, and Jennifer ended up doing the same major as him, likely due to his encouragement. She's thinking about her master's in the same field, but they both work full-time now. In addition to being co-workers and playing Dungeons and Dragons together, they also game online, and they hang out all the time. They've gone to conventions together, either as part of a group, or just the two of them. They do local classes and events together, and Mark helps Jennifer with her photography and editing. While she has a solid full-time job she likes, Jennifer still has aspirations of being a model, influencer. She loves fashion, and she's also into cosplay. After we got engaged, we were at a family dinner, and I was talking to Mark about the wedding party, and I mentioned that even though I have 2 sisters, I wanted my own best friend Helen, 26, to be my maid of honor. Mark said that was great, because he actually wanted to ask Jennifer to be his best man. Jennifer immediately and enthusiastically agreed. Being a female best man is just the kind of thing she'd love. Obviously, even if that meant she wouldn't be one of my bridesmaids. She also knew that between our other sister and some of my friends I had too many people who needed to be bridesmaids and Mark was worried about being short on groomsmen. This was all fine and well until later on when we were talking about what people were going to wear. I picked out my dream wedding dress, and I coordinated the bridesmaid dresses, and Mark was going to have his groomsmen, most of which were other gaming buddies in tuxedos. I had to talk him out of putting them in cosplay/Ren Fair stuff. However, Jennifer was going to wear a dress. Jennifer is a very tall, very attractive woman, and to be perfectly frank, she has a large chest. The dress that she wants to wear was designed by one of her friends online, and while it's not white or anything, it's mostly red and black and pretty well matches the other groomsmen, and it's formal and fancy, it definitely shows off her figure. I wouldn't say in a slutty way at all, but it just does. She would also, as the best woman, stand out from the other men on the groom's side, especially in the heels she wanted to wear with the dress. After dropping a few hints here and there and broaching the subject of each side of the wedding party matching in women's tuxedos, I gently requested that Mark have Jennifer wear a tuxedo rather than the dress and shoes she wanted and he had previously liked. When they gave me pushback, I pointed out to Jennifer that she might be too exposed, or she might distract people with such a flashy dress. Jennifer gave me a dirty look and said half under her breath, "Are you fucking serious?" And before I could react, she just said, "Fine. Fuck it. You're the bride. I'll wear the fucking tuxedo." Mark sighed and half said some things about it being ridiculous, but then when I asked him what he said, he just said, "Okay, it's whatever, it's fine." Since then, Mark and Jennifer have been passive-aggressively making fun of my concerns, with them doing things like Mark comedy ogling her chest, or her making all sorts of boob jokes. She's done things like ostentatiously covering up her chest with her hands when she moves past people while saying things like, "Gotta guard the girls, wouldn't want to knock anyone over." Both her and Mark keep making fake Freudian slips about her chest or her figure, and Jennifer even pretends to lose her balance and fall over because her boobs were too heavy. They pretty much just do this when I'm around. They seem to think it's hilarious. They've made it very well known that Jen is really disappointed about not getting to wear the dress and that her seamstress friend is upset about it too, and Mark has seemed a bit distant and disinterested in wedding planning. I was looking over some tuxedos for women and making some suggestions to Jennifer, about ones that aren't too tight in the chest or hips, and she just showed me the one that she had already picked out and said, "Is this fine, or did you want to further micromanage my specific tuxedo?" We started to get into a fight, and she accused me of being a bridezilla. When I told her she was being a bad sister, she said that she wasn't the one who was being body shamed and told what to wear. I told her my requests weren't body shaming, and she said that they were the same thing. My parents completely took Jennifer's side and said that I should just let her wear the dress. Obviously, she showed it to them too, and they thought it was beautiful. They like her friend too, and her friend has done clothing and costumes with her before. My father said that I should at least stop bothering her about the tuxedo if I'm going to make her wear one, and then I should just let her go with the one she picked. The one she wants though is very high visual impact and it is also very tailored. She said she can match it to the colors, but I feel like she'd still stand out. When I tried to get Mark to weigh in on this, he just said, "It's your wedding, do whatever you want." I guess I'll tell her to do whatever you want. And I obviously don't feel like he's very invested. I feel like he's not on the same page, but he just doesn't want to argue. He's always like that. Even though we both have good jobs, both Jennifer and I still live at home with our parents, because housing is ridiculous, and it's been awkward around each other. I've been staying over at Mark's a lot over the last year, and I was supposed to be officially moving in, but he's been kind of cool and passive about it recently. Everyone seems to be acting like I'm the asshole here. Even though Mark and Jennifer are the ones being passive-aggressive and unreasonable. I almost feel I should have just made Jennifer a bridesmaid right off the bat or told Mark that it didn't make sense for him to have female groomsmen. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband's best man to just wear a normal tuxedo? Update 1, there is not going to be a wedding. John, 42, of all people, Mark's 28 boss and gaming buddy noticed my post, as it got way more attention than I ever expected. We've only ever met a couple of times and hardly ever talked before, but he reached out to me with, "This is John, LOL, call me." So I called him from the parking lot after work. John says he's been married for about 20 years, and he's tried to give Mark relationship advice. He doesn't think we're a good match. He told me that I should talk to Mark and that Mark has been unhappy with our relationship and extremely unhappy with the wedding planning, even to the point that it's a running gag amongst him and his friends. I got into it a bit with John, because to be fair to me, Mark's ideas have been ridiculous. Just some of the things he asked for, and which John, Jennifer, 23F, and his buddies thought would be cool. He wanted the wedding party to have custom swords, daggers and amulets. He wanted them to have the swords during the ceremony and he thought people would like fantasy amulets. Mark had told me that John was willing to pay for the bridesmaid dresses if we had them done by Jennifer's costumer friend. I told him no, because I wanted normal, nice bridesmaids dresses from someplace reputable and that the bridesmaids could buy them themselves. John told me that he had offered this as a bit of a bet with Mark. Mark wanted to serve meat at the wedding. He said that his friend, John, could provide it and that he made meat in his basement and had tons of it. I obviously said no, because why would I want meat at my wedding, never mind some guy's basement meat. John got a laugh out of this at the time, and talked to me, because he's a nerd who likes to laugh at his own jokes. Apparently, he's very proud of his basement mead, and they like to make toast with it. Basement mead has apparently become a running gag in their games, as John insisted on telling me. Frankly, John seemed kind of tickled with himself just because he was speaking with me. Mark wanted the band at the wedding to play classical covers of video game and superhero music. Mark wanted the reception to have a jester, who would wander around doing magic tricks and asking people riddles. Some lady that Mark and his friends know asked if she could be an elf at our wedding and wear her forest gown, and Mark said he'd ask me, and he described it as some kind of green Greek toga dress with leaves and elven writing on it, and that she'd have elf ears. It's a wedding, not a costume party, so I don't even know why he would ask that. I mentioned this stuff to John, and he recognized all of it and some more things to add besides, because Mark would always vent to them about the wedding plans, and John just agreed along, saying that I was constantly shooting down all of Mark's ideas. The point is that all of Mark's ideas were completely ridiculous, and that I wanted to have a wedding and not a Halloween party. John laughed when I brought this up to him and said that these ideas were awesome, and that I was just being too boring. John said that he thought we weren't a good match, and that he's told Mark that he needs to talk to me. I asked him if he thought Mark and Jennifer were a good match, and he just said yes. I asked if there had been anything between them, and he said no. He said he's 100% certain they've never hooked up, because Mark doesn't have the poker face for it, especially with as much as him and the other group members ribbed them over it. He said that Mark is too oblivious for his own good, and that the week after her 18th birthday Jennifer said, pretty much straight to Mark, "I'm 18, so you can fuck me now." And Mark just laughed it off as a joke. It does sound like something she'd say because Jennifer does love making inappropriate sexual jokes. John thought there was more to it though. They've had their characters date each other in games. He said they've been the very model of chastity since Mark has been dating me. Once at an event Jennifer was supposed to kiss Mark, but instead she kissed the palm of her hand and then had him kiss her palm. John is fully confident that neither of them would cheat. I went over to Mark's house, because he hadn't called or texted in a while, and he basically confirmed everything John said. Mark said that I stressed him out when I was over, and he wasn't sure about me moving in because thinking about it gave him anxiety. He didn't like any of my ideas for our house. It was his childhood home, and he's resistant to changing anything. He just has his stuff everywhere and wherever. He kept trying to talk about giving me some rooms, or some space when it's supposed to be our home where all of the space belongs to both of us. He was extremely frustrated about the wedding planning and he felt like he didn't have a say. He said the dress Jennifer wanted to wear was just about the final straw because I told him he could pick the outfits for the groomsmen, and I told him Jen could be in a dress as long as it matched. She really loves the dress, and she got it from her friend. She and John and apparently all of his buddies warned him that I'd find some way to have a problem with it. He says that I talk him in circles whenever he tries to choose or change anything, even though all of his suggestions are ridiculous. And he said he'd just about given up caring by the time I complained about the dress, so he didn't bother fighting about it. He said it upset him the way I was body shaming Jennifer about her figure and her breasts. He thought I was being jealous and controlling, and that I had been a bridezilla ever since he proposed. When I asked him why he even proposed, if I apparently give him anxiety and he doesn't even want me to move in with him. He said he felt like he was pressured to either propose or break up, and he hoped things would get better and that he didn't know if he had a good enough reason to break up. When I told him that I never pressured him to propose, he said that all of my friends and family know that I consider it a goal to get married before I'm 30, and he brought up a document on his phone where he had taken notes about what kind of proposal I wanted from all the times I had talked about it. He said that he started the document because of how obviously important it was to me to have a perfect proposal and how often I talked about what I wanted. He proposed because he felt like he had to either marry me or dump me if I was going to have time for my plans. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a timeline for your life, and I wanted to start having kids by my late 20s or early 30s at the latest. I mentioned all of this to Mark again, and he said that that was fine for me, but that he was kind of on the fence about when to have kids, and he mentioned that Jennifer isn't sure about having kids at all and certainly isn't in any hurry about them, but I told him that doesn't have anything to do with anything and that Jennifer is just being short-sighted. I asked him if anything had happened between him and Jennifer, and he said no, and I believe him. I asked him why he wasn't dating Jennifer, and he said that at first she was too young, and then he was seeing someone, and then he was dating me, and he said that he values his friendship with her more than anything. He said that his friendship with Jennifer was worth not getting to be with her that way, and that she's too attractive to want to be with him. Apparently, the only reason Mark even started dating me is because he tried flirting with me at a family party we were at, and he said I seemed into him. He doesn't think of himself as handsome, but he is, and he's got his PhD, a great job, and his own house at 28. He's definitely a catch. He didn't agree, and he said he's only ever dated his high school prom date, A girl who was kind of his girlfriend until she graduated and left, and me. Mark apologized and said that he wanted to put a hold on any more wedding or moving plans, and that he wasn't sure about the relationship. I had already started crying, but then I broke down and he apologized again. He said he was sorry for messing up my plans, and that he kept hoping things would get better. I left as soon as I felt like I could drive. By the time I got home, Mark had already texted Jen, "Your sister is crying. Sorry," and the two of them had been on the phone the whole time, and of course my mom knew and she tried to comfort me, but I could just tell she wanted to say "I told you so," because she had been warning me I was going to drive Mark away, and she thought he was better with Jennifer too. Jennifer said that she tried really hard to have this work out, because she just wants Mark to be happy, and that she had tried inviting me to gaming, and for Christmas before last she bought me a Switch with games Mark likes, and that she was sorry stuff happened this way. She accused me of not really liking or caring about Mark and just wanting a generic husband. When I told her that wasn't fair, she mentioned the same stuff from the wedding planning and a bunch of other stuff from our relationship that she said made Mark feel ignored or suffocated. She said that the only reason I liked him was because he ticked boxes and always gave in and let me have my way. We started arguing, but our mom stepped in before we could get into it too bad. I asked Jennifer about what this meant for her and Mark, and she said he is absolutely her best friend and nothing is ever going to change that, and that she loves him. When I asked how she loves him, she just said that's not a discussion she wants to have right now. Our mom said everyone needed to cool off, and that was enough for Jen to step away and drop the subject. One of the commenters on my original post asked why I was marrying my sister's boyfriend, and my mom asked very nearly the same thing. She questioned how I had started dating Mark just about as soon as his age gap with Jennifer stopped being awkward, and she implied I shouldn't have been dating him in the first place. That's not fair at all. It's not like he's her property. And Jennifer can clearly just go get whatever man she wants. It's not like she had any kind of claim on a man just for knowing him. Even while she was trying to comfort me and saying that things will be all right, my mom wouldn't stop implying that I was wrong for going after Mark in the first place or criticizing me for how the relationship went. She said that Mark wasn't the man for me, and I could tell she meant that he belonged with someone like Jennifer, as if I'm not good enough or what I want doesn't matter. And then I caught her talking to Jen about how things should be fine and how she should try not to be mad at me as if I was the one in the wrong or I should be apologizing to her. Jennifer just kind of went on like normal and went ahead and went to go game with Mark and her friends the next day. I know they've been chatting online like normal. I gave Jennifer Mark's ring to give back to him, and then I had a missed call from him while I was in the shower and a text that said, "Okay, I guess we are broken up then. I'm sorry. I don't know if I messed this up or if everyone else were the assholes here. Sorry this was so long. A lot of stuff has come out. I feel like I'm definitely not going to get married by the time I'm 30. Related comments. Comment 1. Everyone in this situation is at fault, but I feel bad for OOP because her own mother accused her of stealing her sister's soulmate just because she accepted his invitation to date. The fiancé approached her first, so why is it wrong that she accepted? While it might be true that OOP wanted to meet certain goals and saw him as a way to achieve them, her boyfriend isn't her sister's property. He asked her out and then proposed. Why is she being villainized for thinking they were in a mutual relationship? Comment 2. Seriously, Mark is the biggest villain in this story. He essentially said, "I have a crush on this underage girl at work. I'm going to befriend her and then date her older sister because she's the closest approximation I can get." He told OP he loved her and wanted to spend their lives together when he proposed. But behind her back, he made fun of her with his friends, knowing he'd rather be with someone else. He wasted her time and used her plans to marry by 30 against her. Nobody in this situation is nice, but Mark caused most of the suffering. Comment 3. Everyone in this situation is exhausted. Both people in the relationship aren't compatible, and those around them aren't great either. It's truly one of those, everyone sucks here moments. We've been married for 6 years. While pregnant with our third, I discovered my husband had been having a 4-month affair with my best friend. OP and her husband had been together since she was 19 and he was 22. Married for 6 years now with 2 kids, third baby on the way. She found out her dad has cancer. Her mother passed away when she was 12. OP's husband has been very supportive from day one and suggested that she step away from her job for a while to take care of her family. OP has her best friend who she knew since they were babies. Both families grew up together. After going to wake her husband up, she discovered her friend's text messages to him from his phone. Realizing it has been going on for 4 months that OP's husband and her best friend have been lying to her. She tries to figure out what to do next that she knows now about the affair. Update 1. OP spent a good amount of time gathering and documenting everything she has on her husband and her best friend. Used her dad's hospice care plan as a front cover so her husband doesn't know she knew. She is thinking about going back to work, but working with a lawyer first to get things in order should she move forward with the next steps of her life. Per her lawyer, OP doesn't have to worry about her inheritance from her parents, which her husband cannot touch. While her husband was at work, OP revealed what took place between her husband and best friends to their mothers, who are now upset about the whole incident. Met with the lawyer, OP gets her finances, logistics, and everything in order to make sure she is in a good position to go after her husband and best friend. Update 2, OP provides a quick summary on how things went so quickly in the last couple posts. She was able to meet with her OBGYN on the same day to get checked, all clear. Several more tests were done and waiting for the results to arrive. OP met with her lawyer to go over everything, including her husband's financial records that she got a hold of, to make sure her bases are covered. If everything goes well with what she got, OP should not have any problems with getting the divorce papers within a month. Angie and Ruth, MIL and ex-BFF's mothers, told OP what happened after both sets of parents confronted Tyler, ex, and Jess, ex-best friend. All four are very upset with both for the affair. Tyler and Jess have been cut off from their families. Tyler discovers OP has moved her stuff and their children's stuff to her dad's to get away. He went to look for OP, but she wasn't there. She left for her dad's cabin with her kids, now away and safe. Tyler gets arrested after trying to break into OP's dad's house, not cabin. OP had to get a therapy session in order to talk things out from her end and will set up therapy sessions for her children as needed. Per her lawyer, OP is now collecting all text messages from Jess, who told her to fix everything, especially her parents cutting her off. Blamed OP for stealing Tyler from her. Tyler has begged to reconcile, but OP isn't giving in. He doesn't know about the divorce papers yet until he would be served with them. OP suspected Tyler and Jess won't be staying together since their parents have confronted them. Jess's brother, Jake, is on leave from the military. He is stepping in to help OP and her family, per Angie and Bob. OP thanks the Redditors for the continuing support as she deals with the whole situation on Tyler and Jess. Update 3. Tyler finds OP's post and asked if she is serving him the divorce papers. OP said yes. He begs for forgiveness for his behaviors toward her. OP makes regular meetings with her lawyer to make sure she has everything as needed to make things smooth. Jake is doing great, being a great support system for OP and her children. OP's dad is not doing well, now in the hospital for a while. Kids are adjusting well, along with therapy already set up to cope with the unexpected events in their lives after moving away from Tyler. Still pregnant for a couple more months. Update 4. OP's dad has died. Her marriage ended in dissolution after Tyler found out about being served with the papers. Per her lawyer, the dissolution process was quickly and smoothly after Tyler gave OP everything she asked for in the prior divorce papers. OP has full custody of the kids with visitations for Tyler. Therapy is going on for OP and her kids. Still pregnant, but the baby is doing well. OP's ex-MIL, Ruth, and ex-BFF's mom, Angie, are helping her with the kids. All three women are on great terms with each other. Jake has gone back to his active duties but will be back to help OP and her family. Their friendship is going great and might be moving on to the next step, but Jake and OP are taking things slowly. Tyler and Jess are no longer together. He has left Jess, who has been blacklisted from her family after the blow-up. Update 5. Mill and Angie are taking turns spending the night and days with me for the first 6 weeks until we get acclimated. I told them they didn't have to, but they insisted. Honestly, I'm grateful for it. I can feel the waves of PPD trying to drag me under, and my mental health really hasn't been doing so well. Don't worry, my therapist knows and we're working through it. Knowing that this baby never gets to know and feel the love of my dad has really been hurting, and the fact that this is the only grandbaby he didn't get to meet. I miss him like crazy and wish he was still here. Jake was planning on staying in for another 2 years to retire, but they offered him early retirement. Not because of anything going on with me or this whole situation. There was a situation at work. He didn't do anything wrong, lol. So within the next 6 months he'll be moving back home. He's going to try house hunting and find a place before he comes home, but since he isn't allowed to take any leave during this time to view places since he has to work on his exit stuff, there's a chance he'll be temporarily living with me until he finds a place. No, he isn't moving in permanently, lol. He might even just get an apartment for a year and then buy a house. There's also some drama with Tyler already because he's pissed I wouldn't let him in the room when I had a baby. So if you want any more updates on that front, I'll provide when I'm not overwhelmed. Love you all, thank you all for being my ear when I need to vent and get everything off my chest. I hope all of your days are wonderful today and everything goes your way. Update 6. So if you read any of my previous comments, you know that baby boy is here. He's honestly been the calmest newborn that I've ever managed. Hardly cries, is very content and happy all the time. He's been reaching all of his milestone markers, even hitting the ones that aren't on the premier scale. It's been such a relief and a blessing. The older two completely adore him and are of course eating up the extra attention they get from their grandparents. Yes, Angie and her husband are called Grandma and Grandpa as well. When I went into labor, I had told Tyler that I was in labor, but I didn't want him at the hospital. It is his kid, so I was being courteous. He blew up on me for taking away his right to see his child be brought into the world. I simply turned off my phone to relax and de-stress. He actually showed up at the hospital and had to be escorted off the property by security. Not for being violent or anything, he just wouldn't leave after I'd told the nurses. I delivered at the hospital I work at. I'm an RN. I didn't want him around. After that, he hasn't been to a single visit to see the kids. I initially sent him pictures of the baby and updates, but he never responded and eventually blocked my number. After roughly a month, I asked my FIL to reach out to him since no one had heard from him. My FIL actually showed up at Tyler's house to do a well check since I was concerned something was wrong. Even though I don't love him anymore, there is a piece of me that will always care for him as the father of my children. Turns out he has a new girlfriend and just isn't interested in being a dad anymore. He actually even denied paternity, even though he's the only person I've ever been with physically. The kids are honestly and surprisingly okay with him not really being around. No, I didn't feel it necessary to tell them the harsh things he said. Jake has been completely amazing. He had my favorite food delivered to me at the hospital post-birth. FaceTiming me and texting me regularly. Chatting it up with the kids. Hasn't been pushy on me at all. Has let me set the pace completely. Hasn't crossed any of my boundaries in the slightest. He actually booked me a surprise postnatal massage and arranged all of it, including childcare. It was the most relaxed I've felt in months. He sends little gifts and food to the house occasionally, especially on my hard days. Jake has truly been a breath of fresh air. He comes home in just over 3 months and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. As for me, I've still been regularly attending therapy. It's really helped me cope and just in general become a better person and mother. I'm still devastated by my dad's passing and grief really loves to put a chokehold on me when I least expect it. Sometimes I just go sit in his office where it smells the most like him and cry. I was very blessed to have such a loving and amazing dad. Angie and MIL have truly been angels on earth. I cannot express how beyond lucky I am to have this amazing support system. Even Phil, Angie's husband, have been insanely supportive and kind. I would be lost without their unconditional love and support. As crazy as it sounds, I'm honestly unbothered by the divorce and Tyler not being around anymore. I think I'm more relieved than anything. My heart aches for my children, but IDK. I don't think I truly realized how long I was holding my breath and walking on eggshells in that marriage until I was in a space where I didn't have to anymore. My therapist and I really dug deep and took off the rose-colored glasses. In a weird yet awful way, I'm almost thankful I caught him cheating. I think that's why I was so calm and methodical during the leaving phase. I go back to work next week. I think I'm ready to find my new normal and get back into a routine. While my heart aches my dad isn't around to see it, I'm ready to unlock this next chapter of my life. Cheers to the chapter of healing, self-love, new beginnings, and finding peace within the chaos. Thank you for going through this journey with me, supporting me, sharing your stories with me, and just being here. Love you all, internet friends. I hope you have an amazing day. I'll update again when I can. Update 7. I come bearing some much anticipated news, but I'm going to breeze over a few things other people wanted to know before we get into the Jake update. A lot of people are wondering if Tyler is still to this day not seeing the kids. He isn't. He no longer responds to his dad, who was trying to be the middleman so he didn't have to communicate with me. He told his dad that his girlfriend made him choose and he's choosing her because I wouldn't go through her to communicate with him. Mind you, I don't even know who she is. I don't even know her first name. That's how much I don't know about her. I told him if he wanted to use a third party to communicate with the kids, I would be completely okay with that, but not someone who is a stranger to me or the kids. We could use his aunt, who has remained neutral during the divorce and all of this. It wasn't good enough for him or her, I guess, so he decided to cut all contact. He didn't see the kids for Christmas or New Year. Shortly after the New Year is when he went full no contact. I'm managing the kids and working full-time as best as I can. I'm so grateful for all of the help I have. My MIL and Angie take turns watching the kids while I work, as they're both retired. More often than not, I come home to a clean house, happy kids, and dinner on the stove. They truly are the biggest blessings. I'm giving a huge shout out to the single parents who do this completely on their own with no help from outsiders or the other parent, because I cannot fathom how much strength you've had to muster to do it alone. I've had quite a few people ask me if I'm religious. The answer is yes. I am a religious person, however. I will not now, nor ever judge anyone for who they are. Yes, that includes the girls, gays, and they. The people who were born in the wrong body. No one should ever be able to tell you who you are or who you love is wrong. I support and love everyone in all walks of life. You matter. Your religion or non-religion matters, even if it's not the same one I follow. Hell, I have friends who practice witchcraft and I love that they're so passionate about it and it makes them happy. I absolutely love that for them. The people who are taking away women's rights or rights of the LGBT community in the name of religion make me absolutely disgusted. I feel like I needed that disclaimer to be added because I don't want anyone to rope me into that category. I will also not be entertaining any religious debates. Argue with your mother, not me. Finally, on to Jake. We're dating currently. I use the air quotes because we've been going on dates and spending time together but aren't officially boyfriend and girlfriend, if that makes sense. He kissed me for the first time at midnight on New Year's. Cheesy? Yes. Did I still love it? Absolutely. I'm not ready to offer anything more right now. We have the occasional date night out, but a lot of our dates include things with the kids like movie nights, going to the park, spending time at the house playing with them. The kids adore him and he adores them right back. I have quite a few pictures of him holding the baby, trying to soothe him to sleep, and he winds up accidentally napping with the baby, lol. He's allowing me to completely set the pace. He's patient with me at all times. I honestly feel so lucky. I told Jake if he wanted to date other people he could, and he looked at me like I had slapped him and was adamant I would be the only woman he'd pursue. Sometimes I feel guilty that he's healing a heart he didn't break, but he never hesitates to remind me that he's in this completely and will wait forever if he has to. I waited so long to share this because I wanted his stamp of approval to continue to share what is quickly evolving into our love story. I allowed him to read my posts and everyone's comments. He might have gotten a little bit of a big head with how much everyone is Team Jake. He pokes fun at me for it and I love it, honestly. This man is so funny without ever being mean. He even said, "It's a breath of relief to know your internet family approves of me." He did create a Reddit account to look at my posts with my approval. He'll likely mostly be a silent follower, but don't be surprised if he pops up in the comments occasionally, lol. Update 8. Can you believe that in less than 2 weeks it's been a year since I made my first post on Reddit the morning I discovered my ex-husband's affair? I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey. Y'all have been such a blessing. Whether it's for advice, kind words, or just a listening ear. I am so lucky to have developed my own little community here on Reddit. Now on to some updates. The Jake update will be at the end of the post if you want to skip to read that first. I know y'all are feral for it, lol. First things first, I meant to update sooner, but if you saw Jake's comment you know I was locked out of my account. Well, someone changed the password to my Reddit account and then the email to it as well. You'll never guess who it was. If you guessed Tyler, you'd be wrong. It was Jess. Let's rewind about a month ago. I'm cooking dinner for Jake and the kids while Jake is playing in my backyard with the kids. My front door opens and I figured it was one of my in-laws. They don't usually drop by unexpectedly, but Angie and Emil, totally forgot the fake name I assigned to her. Both have a key to my house since they help me out so much. It's just easier that way. Imagine my surprise when I'm chopping up carrots to see Jess waltz into my kitchen. I simply pointed the knife at the door and told her to get the hell out of my house before I called the cops and pressed charges for breaking and entering and trespassing. I wasn't concerned with how she got into my house. I keep my doors locked 24/7. Call it paranoia if you will. I just wanted her out and would figure the rest out later. She started screaming bloody murder and was calling me psycho for threatening her with a knife. Jake heard the screams and rushed inside. His immediate response was to restrain Jess because he thought she was hurting me even though there was a solid 10 to 15 feet between us. He dragged her out of the house and told her to leave. She was screaming that she would ruin my life and all she was coming over to do was ask for forgiveness. Well, she called the cops on us and made up this elaborate story about how we lured her to my house to set her up, how I tried to stab her, and Jake was punching her repeatedly. She had zero proof and I have cameras hitting every angle of the outside of my house and in all of the main rooms in the inside of my house. Naturally, I just pulled up the footage and showed the cops and they left, taking her with them. Jake has spent the night at my house every night since then. Since then she has hacked into every single last one of my social media accounts, including Reddit. She posted some truly awful and hateful things on my Facebook and Instagram. I'm thankful she didn't manage to post anything on Reddit before I got it back. She spammed my job, I'm a nurse at our local hospital, with complaints and some truly awful fabricated stories about me. After a week of suspension to investigate, I was welcomed back after everything I told my boss and my boss's boss, HR, and everyone else above me proved to be true. I filed for a restraining order against her and my children when she tried to pick up my oldest from her school without anyone's knowledge. Thankfully, I already had a talk with the school about this and gave them a strict, only these people can pick up my child, everyone else you send away, call the cops, or whatever you need to do when Tyler got violent in front of the kids a while back, and they escorted her off school grounds and kept her very close by for pickup until they saw me. Right now I got an emergency order approved but will have to go to court for a more permanent one within the next month. So I will let you know how that goes. She must have had a key from when we were growing up together or something because Angie and her husband have not spoken to her, nor has she had access to them or their home. I got the locks changed immediately. The Tyler update is that there is none. He still hasn't reached out to see his kids, hasn't asked about them. He's been a ghost. We were eating dinner with Jake about a week ago when my oldest quietly said she wished Jake was her dad, and that her real dad never played with them and was really mean when I wasn't home or looking. Which really just confirmed my fears. They were too accepting of him being gone and now I know why. I did learn through the grapevine, Mal and Phil, that he is already remarried and has another kid on the way. Mal told me they got a baby shower and wedding invite in the mail. Honestly, I feel bad for the new wife. The kids are truly just wonderful. Still in therapy, but the therapist has nothing but positive things to say after their sessions now. She did mention that my oldest brought up calling Jake dad, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. Jake has made it clear that once, yes he said once, not if, but once, we're married he fully intends to adopt the kids, but that is another conversation for another day, haha. I don't want to deter her from having a bond with him, but it still feels too soon, you know. My middle child seems to have forgotten Tyler completely and is my usual ray of sunshine. I've seriously never met a happier kid. The baby is babbling away, smiling and laughing now. Can y'all believe it? I'm truly blessed with such wonderful kids. Jake. Well, Jake is Jake, you know how that goes. Haha. No, seriously, I have never felt such happiness before. He was genuinely concerned at how many people were commenting asking if we were still together and told me you better update right now and tell them we're still together. I wish you guys could hear just how funny he truly is. I officially allowed him to give me the title of girlfriend, though he says I've been his girlfriend practically this whole time, haha. He has been sleeping over essentially every night. He says it's under the guise of being worried Jess might show back up, but secretly I think it's because he hates being away from the kids. Whenever he's at work or anywhere that isn't my house, he will text whoever is with the kids asking for picture updates of them and expresses how much he misses them. It's actually really sweet. He's been allowing me to set the pace still, just also helping give me a nudge when I need it. He's attended a few of my therapy sessions with me to help get a better understanding of what I need from him in terms of this relationship. Jake is honestly just everything I could have asked for. I'm lucky to love him. Update 9. I'm making this one quick and easy since it's the first break I've had from life and a busy schedule in weeks. I had my restraining order court date, if you're confused read my last update, and while I didn't get approved for a permanent restraining order, I did obtain a 7-year one. Apparently in my state it's really hard to get a permanent restraining order unless I have tangible proof it's life or death. Everything I had on Jess wasn't enough for permanent, however I am still content with this outcome. If she happens to still be a bother during or after the 7-year RO, I can take her back to court / have her arrested. With that being said, I think I'm letting the talks questions about Jess die here. I love relating to every aspect of my life, however I don't want her to try to use anything I say about her, even if it's under a false name and protected identity, to say that I've been breaking the RO. Jake, the kids and I decided that since he spends so much time at my house and his place is essentially a storage unit that he would be moving in. And before anyone has anything to say about it being too fast, please know I have known Jake my entire life. That's not exaggerating. I've literally known him my entire life. I am comfortable and confident in this choice. Tyler is still a ghost and still has made 0 contact attempts. The kids are beautiful, loved and thriving. Sorry for it being so short and sweet, but life has been kicking my ass between sleep regression, lawyer meetings, court, work, and my older 2 extracurricular activities. How should I address a team member who feels dissatisfied after accidentally discovering information about other people's salaries in the organization? I work at a mid-sized industry S-Corp in as a controller, and after 2 years of toiling with the owner, finally convinced him to hire some staff for the finance department. Currently have a finance manager, junior accountant and bookkeeper in my team, All of which do an amazing job considering the circumstances we're expected to meet. The CEO is a massive senile idiot, who undervalues the finance department and thinks we're all a waste. He complains the department is too large, when he expects us to not only work on the main parent company, but also his 3 subsidiaries, one of which is in SA and a major headache to balance each month. Our bookkeeper, 25F, only has an associate in accounting per her agreed contract to educate herself as she works. She's extremely driven, catches a lot of finer details, and is a studious worker. It's also a bonus she's always willing to put on more work, and wants to learn from everyone. However, while grabbing stuff from the main workhorse printer, she saw HR's payroll timesheet and saw everyone's salary. I've been trying to convince the CEO during this year's review to raise her salary from $50K to $60K, as well as maybe get her a title promotion to accounting assistant. She's genuinely a huge asset to our day-to-day life, but the CEO refuses to acknowledge her merits. I keep telling her I'm desperately trying to boost her wage, but I can see her getting depressed. The worst part is she's not confident she can compete in the job market right now until she at least has her BSA. Any advice on how to coach her? I genuinely feel sorry for her and think she's a tremendous worker. Edit. We're a fairly profitable company, but the CEO refuses to reinvest into the businesses. So we have more than enough room to raise her and honestly quite a few others' salaries, but he's a moron set on the mindset that the finance department is useless. Edit 2. Thanks everyone for the advice and being a place to bounce thoughts off of. I'll try to make an update post next week since I had the meeting with HR and our upper management about it. Relevant comments. Commenter, just be her reference. Help her get out of this shithole by hyping her up to other employers. I'm sure at your position you may have some connections. OP, that's the hard part. I keep encouraging her and giving her positive affirmation that she'll succeed no matter where she applies herself, especially within accounting since she has a great niche for it, particularly in the tax prep side. But she's very soft, and I'm not saying that in a negative light. It took me well over a year to break her out of her shell and actually apply herself, and speak up. I've told her if she truly wishes to leave, I'll vouch as a reference and also see if I can set her up with opportunities, but she won't bite. She's that genuinely rattled that she's, her own words, not going to make it in her current educational status. Commenter, then she needs to be encouraged to get her education. Allow her to study at work during downtimes, push for tuition reimbursement if that's not already being offered, be flexible with her hours so that she can attend classes. It doesn't make sense that she's asking for more money where she is if she doesn't think she can get more money somewhere else. You push for raises based on your marketability and you're prepared to walk out if they can't get you up to market, not because someone with a degree and credentials that you don't have is making more than you. That's not how it works. OP, full reimbursement as long as she gets an A. It's how she got her associates by taking the fundamental courses at a local college while working. However, some of the more advanced classes she can't take all at once, so she's now back to 1 or 2 classes a semester. The current route is almost 2-3 years until she's near her BSA. It's how I managed to convince the CEO to hire her. Her employment contract lists she needs to be actively furthering her education. Otherwise, she's liable for termination. Commenter, I second their reference. If you can't win the fight, time for you all to jump ship. You're probably underpaid too. OP, I am $14,500 underpaid the market average in PA. Considering I'm basically doing work for 4 companies, severely underpaid. But I don't mind it as much since I'm closer to home, actually get OT pay here, prior to my previous job at B4, and WLB is worth the pay dip. However, I may jump ship within the next year if the CEO continues down this route. Commenter, you should fire the HR staff who printed everyone's salary and left it at the printer. Then use those savings in payroll to give the bookkeeper a raise if she deserves it as you suggest. OP, I had a meeting with the HR staff about 2 hours ago. They kept writing it off as an honest mistake and apologized to the bookkeeper for the situation. I'm also setting up a meeting between the CEO, CFO, myself and HR to discuss the impact of this situation, and how fucking reckless them using the main printer. Commenter, what is your goal here? Doesn't sound very productive. There's idiots in every company. OP, one of the many hats I wear is also adjusting company policies, for all departments, for whatever the reason. The CEO wants the controller to do it, so I just do it. So while the premise of the meeting itself doesn't sound too productive, it's still a good way for me to have the CEO acknowledge what went down. Like I said, he's borderline senile and needs these sort of meetings to know what happened. Also, if the bookkeeper decides to leave, I need to have the assurance that the CEO knows the reason why specifically. Not that she left because she sucked at the job, or some other nonsense HR will probably tell the CEO, but that what caused the initial reason is due to HR's lack of compliance to their own conducts. That way, if I need to find a replacement, which I will because we're honestly overworked, the CEO can't give me shit for needing another person. Commenter. Just a general question that has been floating in my head since we accountants have pretty good access to financials within the company we work for, but wouldn't the bookkeeper have access to everyone's salary anyways? OP. I think that varies on separation of duties. Traditionally, bookkeepers often can issue payroll if HR doesn't handle it. However, in my company our bookkeeper only sees the total per pay period, not at an individual level, as myself and HR fill out timesheets and process payroll, due to CEO's weird confidentially paranoia. So she may have had an assumed figure in her head seeing our total monthly payroll expense, but never knew how much everyone made. I think what got her is seeing a certain employee's figure, because they are notoriously a shit worker but get paid a lot due to the CEO's racial bias. Update 1. So last Friday, I had a meeting with the CEO, CFO, HR, and myself to address the idiot HR manager using the main copier to print payroll timesheets. The meeting itself went awry, with my focal initiative being centered on addressing lack of compliance to policy and leak of confidential payroll details, leading to immediate consequences of disgruntled employees. Apparently not just my bookkeeper saw it, but a few others as well. So the HR manager profusely apologized and the CEO basically kept excusing her lack of discipline. The CFO and I already laid out a game plan prior to the meeting, so we discussed how the bookkeeper is disgruntled and it's beginning to affect her commitment here, highlighting that she's a valuable asset and human resource to the finance department and company overall. The CEO asked what my proposed solution was and I brought that with this year's review for 2023, we gave her a title promotion to staff accountant junior accountant. This would then give more validity to raising her salary from $50,000 to $60,000 to match market rate in PA, on the MI&E range, and help retain her dedication and excite her requirement to gain advanced education, BSA and beyond. This is where shit hit the fan. The HR manager says that's not a reasonable proposal and tries to convince the CEO to basically shut this whole meeting down. The CEO, being senile and already having a negative opinion on the finance department, was easily getting swayed and kept asking for the CFO's opinion. The CFO, being a massive kiss-ass, tried to play both sides because he's aware that he can't afford to anger the CEO or myself, since I basically do all of his work anyways. The HR manager then pulls an extremely childish, borderline insulting move. If she's so valuable, why not forego part of your own bonus for the 2023 review and give it to her? Here's the thing. I'm very fortunate to be considered a valuable member of this company, and my annual salary and bonuses are pretty high, even though I'm still below market average, for controller. I also receive an incentive pay for working on the CEO's other 3 subsidiaries, which could cover the $10,000 raise that I'm proposing for my bookkeeper. As I am also underpaid, I also work my butt off for those bonuses and incentives, and unsure if that's 1, even legal, and 2, a viable way to sustain a staff's pay. HR basically just told me to pay my own team's salary, which I'm still pretty aghast they would recommend such action. I didn't provide an answer yet, and luckily the meeting concluded since the CEO had a prior engagement to attend to. My bookkeeper is still at the company, but it's pretty obvious her confidence and vibrant energy is gone. I haven't told her about the details of the meeting, but I can tell she's anticipating an update. Genuinely, she's a great worker and I would love to keep her at the company, so I can continue working with her and developing her accounting career. This is my first time encountering a situation like this in management, so I'm unsure what the move is here. If anyone can provide some advice, that would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comments. Commenter. I want to know what the consequences were for her HR employed. Should have been written up at a minimum. OP. The other HR staff, who I personally think should be the manager instead as he's more objective and stoic, has told me little tidbits here and there. Basically, the HR manager just got written up in a small yelling at. It was basically the equivalent to a slap on the wrist. Other than that? God, who knows? She seemed pretty satisfied with herself walking out of that meeting. Commenter. I'd leave a place like this so fast. Your boss can't wholeheartedly have your back in a situation where you have a clear, reasonable answer to. Peace out. OP, CFO has told me on the side he's willing to increase my bonus this year to basically brush this aside. Trust me, I'm genuinely contemplating it. Commenter, this is all kinds of wrong. You're combining 2 different issues into one. Issue 1, data breach. Issue 2, disgruntled employee and review of finance team structure. Issue 1 isn't really your direct concern. Head of HR and CEO to discuss. Data controller 2 if you have one. Complain that your direct reports are disgruntled at the misconduct and leave it at that. Issue 2 isn't any of HR's concern. CFO structures the finance team as they see fit. CEO signs off any changes to budget and headcount, if needed. I wouldn't give any credence to the HR manager's bonus comment. It shows their immaturity and others will notice. OP, I'll try to provide more details that I maybe should have included in the original post. Issue 1 is my problem because for some reason, the CEO made policy and procedure the controller's job, instead of like most other companies where either HR or COO handles it. So for some reason, it's fallen on my lap to make sure every department is compliant to their own manuals and overall company manuals. Issue 2 is also a problem I have to address with HR involved, as for some reason the CEO drags HR into the employee reviews. It used to be just CEO and department managers to review with their team's performances, allowing said team members to sit in if they requested it. However, a year after I started, the CEO has incorporated HR into it for some reason, and now weighs their honest impartial opinions on the matter. It's driving me nuts even typing this. Commenter. So wait, the HR has a seat at the table regarding their opinion, but doesn't have the responsibility over policy and procedure execution or even following it. So is HR just in this company just the payroll department but for some reason gets treated like an executive OP? Spot on. Our HR department is just basically there to listen to employees complain, do bi-weekly payroll, and basically fulfill executive assistant duties. They don't even do their own recruiting or screening. We literally have to expense anywhere between $30K, $80K to hire a recruiting firm every time we want to hire new staff. Commenter. This is a clown company. You bluntly said your leadership is a mix of kiss-ass, senile, and incompetent. What are you still doing there? OP. Protecting my team's interests. After I know they're taken care of, then I'll make my decision to dip. I feel like what I'm saying is green and too hopeful, but I at least want to keep my responsibility to them and do as much as I can for them before I leave. Commenter. Leave and take everyone worth half a shit with you. OP. I have joked in the past with my finance manager, junior accountant and bookkeeper that I'll kidnap them and start our own firm. Maybe it's time to force that joke into reality lol. Update 2. I'd first like to say thanks to everyone in this sub for their genuine comments regarding the matter. I've worked in accounting for roughly 6-7 years thus far, but only 2-3 in a management controller position. This situation overall, and the feedback from multiple people, has honestly been an essential learning experience, so thank you. The CEO, CFO and I had a final meeting while working on Saturday. We sometimes work Sats with the OT pay, only until 11 a.m. so WH workers can catch up on orders. Basically, the CEO said he can't do $10K in a title promotion for someone who doesn't even have their BSA. CFO and I argued back saying she's more than qualified in accounting experience, and that I personally gauge her around the same level as a staff accountant. The CEO, pretty disgruntled, said he wouldn't do it and that a $4,000 raise was all he could do for her. And then he went with HR's retort and said, if she has that much potential, then me, can pay her that bonus. While I do think this is an overall win, I had a feeling my bookkeeper wouldn't be very happy with an 8% raise. Many people have voiced that my bookkeeper may be asking too much, but as her manager I truly do value her discipline, work ethic and development thus far. So on the drive home, I steeled myself to basically cut $6,000 of my bonus and provide it on top, so she can earn that $10K raise. Fast forward to today, I had a meeting with my bookkeeper in the morning and told her about the results of the review. She was definitely not happy, and grew even more disgruntled at the fact that I was giving her part of my bonus. Maybe I'm still too green, but I wanted to be honest with her. I was hoping that if I tell her that I'm willing to pay part of her bonus, she would feel that even if the company doesn't value her, that I still do. I guess it had the inverse effect on her, as she started crying and thought herself as even more of a burden. I told her that if she needed, she could take as much time as she wanted to think about the offer, and no matter her choice I'll support her. About 20 minutes after the meeting, she asked if we could have a follow-up meeting. Moment we get in, she bursts into tears again. She starts profusely apologizing for not meeting standards, that she felt like a burden, that she caused me so much trouble arguing with HR and CEO, and that she was formally quitting as of today. I tried to tell her that I do not blame her, nor think she is unqualified, because I meant it, to try and calm her down. I tried to diffuse the situation the best I could, by telling her I'm not giving up on her review and that I'm still pushing etc. But nada. She left as of about 20 minutes ago writing this post. Last thing she asked me was if I could help her update, revise her CV and if I could get in contact with my network connections, to which I told her of fucking course. I'm writing this on my early lunch break because I'm fucking shattered. I know I can only provide her some connections and maybe a great recommendation letter, but I genuinely feel like I let her down. This is a crushing defeat for me, and I'm pretty exhausted trying to cope with it as it's my first time in management dealing with this. I couldn't do it, guys, and it's the worst fucking gut feeling I've ever experienced in a long time. Relevant comments. Commenter, what else do you need to see to convince you that they don't give a fuck about you or anyone else? OP, may be seen as a stupid reason, but after today I feel like I need to really step up for my other two team members, junior, accountant and finance manager. Even if I leave, I want to at least secure them good reviews, or set up some sort of a safety net in my absence. Especially because now I know the CFO won't do jack squat for my team. The finance manager has more years than me, and the only reason he's below me is because he never decided to further his education. He's got a great head on his shoulders, and I imagine he can easily take up my position. Junior accountant is still learning, but he's a great guy. Same with the bookkeeper, hardworking, amazing work ethic, and strives to continue learning. So I'd like to at least secure him a promotion before I leave. Our company does reviews per employee very, very slowly. Commenter, that sucks. Sounds like you didn't fail anyone here. The leadership put you in a no-win position, and in doing so revealed how much they value you, your team, and your function as part of the business. The real question is, what is your next move? OP. I've never stared at my CV this long in my life. I'm contemplating leaving, but going to first entertain the idea by looking at job postings in the tri-state. And I appreciate the kind words, but this was a great learning opportunity for me. Albeit in hindsight, I'm extremely bitter about losing such a talented staff member. Commenter, open feedback. As a manager, you shouldn't have told that much. Being a manager is not simply being transparent to those around you, but more being transparent while filtering the noise, reformulating bad news. It's also about putting things into perspective, especially for new, young hires. You could have presented the 4K raise for the bookkeeper as a win with an incentive to have them get their degree. Here's already 4K and we can discuss compensation further once you get your degree. If you really insisted on getting her 10K while axing your own bonus, you should have never told her where it comes from. In essence, you guilt-tripped her. There was no reason to give her the full explanation in that case. From my perspective, you were too empathetic with your employee. Remember, they had already gotten a hefty raise after only a year or two within the company, and I remind everyone here they're only 25, are yet to have a degree, and then you get her another 8% while her title or education hasn't evolved. You should have put things into perspective and rationalized the situation. Instead, you've pressured your employee into rethinking their career choice, and feeling guilty about getting a raise since you explicitly told her it comes at your cost. OP, I appreciate the feedback. I guess I did begin taking a more subjective stance on the situation, as I tend to pride myself in trying to be a good team manager. That's entirely fair criticism, and I can now see the value of how a white lie may have prevented me from guilt-tripping her. I intended it to be more of a fuck the company, you're great to me message, but I think I read her stance wrong. Thanks for the drill down, this is honestly great. Commenter, man OP, it sounds like the most crushing thing is the fact that she still feels like a burden and that you feel like you couldn't get across that no, she's not a burden, as evidenced by your willingness to give your own money to her to keep her around because you do value her so much. Am I pegging that right? Anyways, where are you located? I just started as an associate at a small public firm that's always looking for new staff, and in my limited 3 weeks LOL experience, they treat us right. I can refer her to the firm and see how it shakes out. OP, yeah, it's getting to me on a personal level even thinking about it. I plan on reaching out to her to have lunch or dinner at least once before she lands herself in a new gig. Entirely selfish, but I need to know she understands I never saw her as a burden, only a positive asset. She's smart, so she'll figure it out herself, but I want to make sure this incident doesn't permanently dent her ego. Commenter, do you have feelings for her? OP, haha, I can see why it may be taken that way. But I can soundly say I do not. This isn't a slight to her, as I think she's great both as a team member and as a person, but I'm already infatuated with my current SO. I just personally dislike it when people pour their heart out, and that's not reciprocated properly. As her ex-manager, I still feel like it's my responsibility to ensure her some closure on that front. Commenter, please update us with the CEO's reaction. Do they realize they might be losing you as well? OP, I'll try to make another post if I ever make a decision. I don't want to seem like I'm milking this situation for karma or something. The CFO at least knows I'm extremely pissed at this outcome, but the CEO probably doesn't even care or know. Update 3. I wasn't planning on making this post, but well over 200 plus people, thanks for flooding my inbox, were asking for any major updates if they happen. So just sharing for people's peace of mind, I guess. Just a minor update on both the bookkeepers and my own statuses post-whole HR debacle. Thanks to everyone for the guidance and words of encouragement to bolster my steps. Bookkeeper and I had lunch on Wednesday last week to discuss her future plans. She's still pretty beat down by the situation, but guess she hasn't been dragging her feet since she asked me for a recommendation letter, plus to be a reference for a couple gigs. She still plans on furthering her education, whether or not an opportunity arises, so at least she's still encouraged to continue her accounting career. On Saturday, I got a text from her saying she was able to land a gig at a small, family-owned firm as a staff accountant near Delaware. Starting wage is $58K, 4% match, and a bunch of other benefits, so she got herself into a very good opportunity. I told her that as long as she applies herself the same way she did her previous experience, she'll do great and wished her the best of luck. She still plans on continuing communication, sort of as a mentor-mentee relationship, and I told her I'd be glad to. As for myself, I finished reviews for my remaining team members and quit as of last Friday. I wanted to make sure my team was well taken care of, so that my exit wouldn't leave too much of a gap in work for them. Managed to get my junior accountant promoted to accountant plus a 10% raise, so pretty glad I got to do one thing right there. To no one's surprise, the CEO and CFO were blindsided and tried to retain me in a panic on Friday when I was packing my stuff. Pretty much forced me into a meeting, offered me $24K, 8 more days of PTO, and let me WFH on Fridays, even though that's not really a perk for me. As much as I would have loved to have lived everyone's quitting fantasy here, I just simply left it as this summarized. If they truly valued me, as well the efforts I've made to improve this company, they would have listened to me at the start instead of scrambling like idiots last second. I left, and then the CFO sent me one massive text, not even a call. Basically begging me to come back LOL. I just ghosted him because he's pretty useless in terms of connections. I have no plans to job search at the moment and may be thinking about enjoying a couple weeks to myself before I continue my career. I have notified some of my connections that I'm free, and already being headhunted, so I'm fairly confident I can enter a gig when I need to. Pretty grateful for that, honestly. Been enjoying my Monday thus far at home, finally catching up on the boys and 3-body problem. I personally think this is a win-win for both the bookkeeper and myself, but thank you everyone for the advice. I've also been curious about other fields in accounting. I've done PA at B4, worked at local firms, and an industry S-Corp gig. So if anyone has any recommendations to explore, I'd be down to explore them too. Relevant comment. The HR manager sent me 4 emails regarding updated offers. I know in the post I mentioned only the final offer they gave me, but it was originally much lower LOL. First offer was just a $8K bonus on top of my current bonus LOL, which is not much. Second and third offers were minor add-ons. So they were still cheaping out on me until the very end. As for any personal reactions, nada. Guess the HR manager is too egoistic to admit they've screwed the pooch on this one. I told my finance manager to keep me posted if the HR manager gets any reprimand from this, haha. We live with my wife's friend after her abusive relationship. Recently, I've noticed that she's intentionally trying to get close to me. I, 33, have been married to my wife, 31, for 6 years and we have a 3-year-old kid. We are very happy together and I am lucky to be married to a very kind and smart woman. My wife's best friend Anna, fake name for anonymity, has been living with us for the last 6 months. I wanted to talk about Anna to give a full context of why I'm making my decision. Anna has been my wife's best friend since school days. Anna was living in the city with her boyfriend, and we live in the suburbs of that city. They seemed happy together and were in a relationship for 2 years. However, my wife noticed bruises on Anna's hand last year and asked her about it. Initially, Anna dismissed it as work-related injuries. My wife kept on probing, and we learned that Anna was in an extremely toxic and abusive relationship. Her boyfriend lost his job last year and became extremely controlling and abusive towards her. He constantly accused her of cheating. Anna denies it, made her link her phone messenger to his computer and started micromanaging finances. There was an incident of domestic violence that was the final straw in my wife, and I had to rush to the hospital to look after Anna. Since Anna's parents are mostly absent from her life, my wife asked me if Anna can stay with us for a few days. We are 3 people living in a 4-bedroom house and have 2 spare guest rooms. I of course agreed to it and told her that Anna can stay with us as long as she wants. I think the incident completely broke Anna and she would just start crying randomly and completely shut down. It was really sad to see Anna in that state. She had to leave her job due to mental issues and stayed at home in the room all day. My wife is very kind and took care of Anna like she was family and made sure she felt loved. Anna is also thankful to my wife and I to help her in her worst time, and helps around the house and with our kid, though we never leave him alone with Anna. Anna, now is coming back to normal, smiles sometimes and has started looking for a job again. Now on to the incident. Last Friday, my wife and I went to work as normal and dropped our son at daycare. I had a doctor's appointment at noon and came straight home from there as I did not have a lot of work in the office. I made some lunch, and then went to my room to sit in my bed and reply to all the emails. Anna was in her room, and I did not talk to her after I came home. Around 2 p.m., I heard Anna's room door open and her walking in the hallway. Suddenly, our bedroom door opened and Anna walked in topless and just in her underwear. I was shocked and not sure how long I was staring at her. But after a few seconds I blurted out, "I am sorry." And she quickly covered herself with her hands. She was apologetic and started explaining herself. She said she just wanted to borrow my wife's clothes because her laundry was unwashed. It was super embarrassing to have a conversation with her in that state and I looked away. She again apologized and then went out of the bedroom. The incident lasted less than 2 minutes. After a while, she again came back into our bedroom, fully dressed, and apologized for the incident. She said it was really embarrassing and she did not know anyone would be home. I said it's okay and I should have told her I was back early from the office when I came home. She asked me to not mention the incident to my wife. She said she felt embarrassed when she walked around the hallway without clothes and that I saw her in that state. I said it's okay and let's forget about it. I have not told my wife about the incident and it's been 5 days. It was just a benign incident, but I somehow feel guilty about the whole thing. I feel more guilty that I am lying to my wife by omission of the truth. However, I feel that if my wife takes it the wrong way, it may strain her relationship with Anna, and I really feel bad for Anna for what she had to go through. I also do not want to make Anna uncomfortable in our house by telling my wife about her barging into our bedroom in that state. Am I the in this case for not talking about this incident to my wife? I am afraid that if Anna tells it to her first, it will make me look really bad and guilty. However, if I tell her, I do not want her to blame Anna for any of this and not help her in time of her need. Can someone please help me on how I can tell my wife about this? Relevant comments. Multiple Redditors advised OP to talk with his wife and not keep it as a secret from her if the incident was really bothering him. OP's reply. Thanks. This is really helpful. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I have read that in these situations, the victim's trust in men is very fragile. Would it be horrible if I told my wife after I told Anna I would not mention this incident? Should I talk about this with Anna first? Comment 1. You would be the asshole if you do not tell your wife. Never keep secrets as a team with your house guest against your wife. Comment 2. Anna needs to tell her PDQ. She also needs to stay out of your bedroom. Do not keep the secret, that's what will destroy your relationship. I'll try to give Anna a pass, but some small part of me thinks she knows what she's doing and asking you to keep it a secret is part of that. Update 1. I wrote a post yesterday about an embarrassing situation that happened between my wife's best friend who is currently staying at our house. I was not sure how to bring it up to my wife and you guys really helped me a lot in understanding the urgency of telling my wife. I also got some cool ideas on how to bring up the subject without making it awkward for anyone. For everyone saying Anna was doing it on purpose, I did not agree with it as I'm an extremely average-looking person and women don't chase me. However, things since last night have been just crazy and I think I'm spiraling a bit. Sorry for the long post. So I decided to tell my wife last night as soon as she came home about the incident. I like the idea of jokingly bringing up casually so that we both can laugh about it and then forget it. Last night, when my wife came home, I made sure I stayed in our bedroom. I asked Anna if she could stay with my kid downstairs. As my wife was changing, I asked her if Anna still borrowed her clothes. Anna had to borrow them regularly when she first moved, long story. My wife told me yes and she has told Anna she can take anything from her closet if she needs it. I asked my wife if Anna told her about the funny incident from Friday. My wife said no, and I told her the whole story about how I came home early, and Anna came in the room almost naked to get her clothes, and how embarrassing it was for both of us. As my wife was listening to this, she completely froze and turned pale. She started murmuring in Spanish, which is her and Anna's native language. I don't understand Spanish really well, but I understood the words hombre casado, and otra vez. I asked her if she is okay and she sat next to me and asked me to explain everything in detail. I just told her it was nothing and she must have not heard me coming in. I was trying to laugh it off, but my wife had water in her eyes. I kept on telling her it was not a big deal, but she kept on asking me for more details. She asked me how Anna talks to me. I told her that Anna barely talks to me since she moved in except few words here and there. My wife then asked me about 3 weeks ago when my wife had gone to visit her parents for 4 days. Anna did not want to go with her and stayed back. I told her that Anna was just acting normal. She or I would cook dinner after I got home from work while the other took care of the kid. The only thing different was Anna generally spending her evening in her room. However, when I was sitting in the living room watching TV after the kids slept, Anna came and sat on the sofa next to me but did not talk to me. I asked her if she wanted me to change the channel or stream to something she likes, and she just said she wanted to get out of her room. However, she did not flirt with me or do anything unusual. I kept on telling my wife that it was just an accident, and I really did not understand why she reacted so emotionally to it. My wife refused to answer and just said okay and agreed with me. However, she told me I should have told her about the incident sooner and should not keep any secrets from her and gave me a big lecture. I told her that I did not think it was a big deal and thought Anna would tell her, but glad I brought it up. After dinner, my wife massaged Anna to join us, and she came out. While talking, my wife brought up the incident and told Anna that I mentioned about the incident and she does not need to feel embarrassed. Such things happen when we are all in the same house and it is not a big deal. Anna was firstly taken by surprise, but then told my wife she was just scared to tell her because she thought my wife would judge her because of her past. My wife gave her a stare and she quickly changed the topic. At night, I asked my wife what the hell was going on. I told her to please not keep any secrets from me, and if she does not tell me I will directly ask Anna about what her past has got to do with anything. My first guess was Anna might have had a thing for me before we got married or something. But my wife was very reluctant to answer and kept on trying to change the subject and cuddle. However, I kept being persistent and she finally spilled the beans. Apparently, when Anna was in her early 20s, she was in a relationship with a married coworker who was twice her age. It was a kind of sugar daddy relationship and he told her that he was in an open relationship, or that's what Anna told my wife, and he would leave his wife in a few years once the kids go to college. This makes sense now, because Anna is very pretty, like Miss USA level, and I never understood why she was single for most of the time I knew her. She eventually ended that relationship and started dating her boyfriend Jim, who turned out to be an abusive asshole. My wife said she suspects Anna was still involved with the older guy while in relationship with Jim, which explains why he kept on accusing her of cheating. That is why my wife became emotional when I told her what Anna did because she was worried Anna has no boundaries regarding married men. My wife said that Anna always looks up to us and praises me for being such a loyal partner and how lucky my wife is. My wife was worried initially when she brought Anna home, but her actions from the time when my wife was away clearly show that she respects the boundaries, and it must have been an accident. My wife told me she is grateful I let Anna live in our house and observe what a healthy and happy marriage looks like. This morning was even more weird. I got up early as I could not sleep well and went down for a cup of coffee. After 5 minutes, Anna walked into the kitchen and told me she was relieved my wife did not overreact to Friday's incident. She said I am a good husband and gave me a hug and peck on the cheeks. She has never hugged me in the last 6 months. She seemed to be in a happy mood and was making small talk with me while having coffee. I cannot believe my wife did not tell me such a huge detail about Anna for all these years. It's completely possible she cheated all through the relationship with Jim, and my wife is just covering for her all along. She even kept it a secret from me, after giving me a lecture about how we should never have secrets. And I don't know what else she is hiding. Everything just seems very confusing at this point. I feel angry at my wife for lying to me all these years for Anna. I also now see Anna differently. I am also worried that me trivializing the incident to my wife might have sent wrong signals to Anna. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Anna needs to go before her own messed up issues lead her to further mess with your marriage. She was testing OP again with the hug and kiss on the cheek, and I didn't see OP writing that he told his wife about that new development. She's gotta go before she pushes to the next level. OP's reply, yes. I am also a bit mad at myself for trying to casually describe the event as some of the Redditors advised and not talk about the fact that she was in the room for a lot longer. I was worried that my wife would be pissed at me. Now I wish I told her all the details and did not make it sound trivial. My wife now trusts Anna and I am getting more uncomfortable. Multiple Redditors urge her OP to tell his wife about the hug and kiss. OP's reply. I agree with the hug and kiss part here. It is not uncommon for my wife's friends to kiss me on the cheek when they meet me. I am not from that culture, and initially it used to make me uncomfortable. But something about today morning with Anna waking up so early, coming down in her bedclothes and sitting with me rubbed me the wrong way. I am not able to point out exactly what, but she was acting differently. For lack of a better word, She looked happy for the first time since she moved into our place. I have not told my wife yet. Things have been a bit icy between us since yesterday, as I am still upset at her for keeping secrets from me for all these years. I know it's Anna's personal life, but I feel a bit betrayed that for all these years, she knew Anna was with a married man and never even mentioned it to me. We had a talk in the evening and she apologized, but then we both dropped the subject and took our son to the playground as the weather was finally nice and had an amazing time. However, I plan to tell her as soon as we both are alone at night. As I said in the comments, I do not think she will mind, since it's not uncommon for her friends to give a quick peck on cheeks when saying hello. In fact, I was not comfortable with it at the start, and now I am used to it. Her mom, cousins, friends, everyone kisses me. There are also weird rules, where married women like my wife just hug, but non-married friends give a kiss, unless you're family. Also, only girls give a kiss, but men don't kiss girls on cheeks. I learned that the hard way. I am not Latino, Colombian to be exact, and maybe someone who is familiar can explain the rules here so people who don't know the tradition won't misinterpret it as anything sexual. Also, I never keep anything from my wife, and hence I felt so guilty about my actions over the last week. I am sure I will mention it to her before the end of the day. Update 2. I wrote a few posts a month ago regarding my wife's friend Anna accidentally walking into our bedroom topless to get my wife's clothes while I was in the room. We addressed the issue the next day, but I learned more about Anna's past and why my wife was uncomfortable due to the situation. My wife and I talked to Anna and told her it was not a big deal, and we all decided to move on from the incident. After I posted the update, a lot of you advised me to tell my wife about Anna hugging and kissing me on the cheek the following morning. I felt uncomfortable with the situation, and the comments really made me nervous. Most of you were reading my post as a telenovela or the start of a porn movie, and the comments were really not helping calm me down. You may not like this part, but I just decided to get off Reddit for a while and try to think through the situation on how to tell my wife. I felt that my wife treats Anna as family and just like her sisters. I have known my wife's sisters since they were in their early teens. I have had similar incidents happen with them all the time, and I never made a big deal out of it. There were so many times we had to tell them to keep their tops on when sitting in our backyard pool area when they were younger, and God knows how allergic they are to wearing pants around the house. However, I just treat them as they are my sisters. I decided I need to do the same with Anna and treat her like my wife's sisters. I also wanted to communicate that clearly to both Anna and my wife so they don't get in such uncomfortable situations anymore. That night, I was talking to my wife and decided to put a positive spin on the incident that happened early in the morning. I asked my wife if she noticed anything different with Anna. I told her that she woke up early with me today and greeted me with a hug and kiss and also helped me make breakfast. I told her that I am glad she finally looks happy and is returning back to her old self, and how proud I am of my wife that she is such a kind-hearted person who helped a friend in need. My wife seemed happy with my comment and started saying that she also noticed Anna was chattier in the morning and was cleaning her room and talking about applying for jobs again. I told my wife that I feel Anna is like one of her sisters, and I'm happy she also considers us as family and is comfortable around us. The next few weeks were great. Anna started waking up early in the morning around the time I woke up, 5 a.m. We always had coffee together and had nice chats. She also helped me with breakfast and getting lunch boxes ready. She asked me if she can join my gym and if I can teach her some resistance training exercises. Her therapist told her it would be good for her to work out. So, we started going to the gym 3-4 times a week in the evening before picking my son from daycare. It's nice to have a regular gym partner and someone to geek out about the daily protein intake. I also told her when we were cooking that she is so much less annoying than my Sills, and I wish she was my Sill. She just smiled at the comment. Anna has already had a few interviews and also contacted her old job, who seem interested in hiring her back. She told us 2 weeks ago that she will be looking for apartments. We already saw 2 apartments in our suburb and hopefully should finalize that soon. My wife jokingly told her that her dating prospects are going to be bleak if she stays in our suburb, but Anna told us that she is going to stay away from relationships at least for a while now and work on herself. Plus, she enjoys our gym and loves spending time with our son. About the hugging and kissing, I think I have decoded it. A hug from Anna is normal and I get one every morning. However, I think she kisses people on the cheeks as a way to say thank you. Things are really looking positive for Anna, and we are very happy that she was able to get through a bad patch in her life. She had isolated herself from everyone after the incident 7 months ago. However, she plans to join my wife and son on her summer trip to my in-laws in a few weeks, unless there are any updates on the employment front. I just hope for the best for her, and I'm glad that I did not make a big deal out of the situation. I am also glad to have such a kind and understanding wife who is there for her friend in need. Relevant comments. Comment 1. If this works out for you guys, that's great. For me it's such a huge red flag, that she wakes up same time as you, joined the same gym as you and wants to spend a lot of time with you plus is looking at places to rent near you. Maybe it's because I've seen too many stories like that end in a horrible way. Again, if it works out for you guys it's great, to me it's one red flag after another and seems like a start of something fishy. Comment 2, I felt uncomfortable reading how much she's inserted herself in your life. There's still red flags waving and you're either stupidly oblivious or you're enjoying the attention that you choose to be oblivious to. Comment 3, you honestly still don't see it, do you? Waking up early at the same time as you, going to the gym with you and cooking with you. She's spending an awful lot of time with you. And the difference is she isn't one of your SILs but your wife's friend. A friend that has a past going after married men. You sound naive to not at least put down some fucking boundaries with her. I don't even get why you won't do that. It's so stupid. On every post people kept warning you and you refused to listen. I hope for your wife's sake, that Anna doesn't try anything. But remember that if she does and your marriage dies because of it, you and your unwillingness to handle it, will be the sole fucking reason. Comment 4. Oh sure, this is going to end well. We won't do the immediate attack head on because he won't fall for that. So we do the slow build. A little bit here, a little more there. As soon as she gets her own place, things are going to change. I don't understand how people cannot see what is happening in front of their eyes. Poor dude is going to be in her bed and wondering what happened. Comment 5. I have no dog in this fight and I'm wildly uncomfortable with how much Anna has inserted herself into your life and your daily routine and how you have let her do so. It does not come across as innocent, she has no reason to hug or kiss you ever. Why is the apartment hunting a wee thing? Why are you talking down about your wife's relatives to this person? Why are you spending so much of your time every day with this woman? You are having an emotional affair with this woman. And it is not going to take much for it to turn physical and you will be back here saying you have no idea how this happened. You need to get back to doing these things with your wife and this woman needs to not be part of your life or you will be very sorry in the end. She knows exactly what she's doing and she is playing the long game. Oh, and now reading previous posts I see Anna has gone after married men before. OMG. You really can't be this clueless.